look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well, not for a guy of his caliber.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
They won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk. That's right. We are live.
It's time.
I played the wrong cut. Oh, well.
That's a false start on number 72, Gundia.
Me and Charles Leno have the most false starts in the league. How are you, Dan Aguirre?
I'm well. I was going to ask you, well, before I'm going to steal someone else's gimmick and give a shout out real quick.
Okay.
Since we were off last week, which is going to lead to my question, but I want to shout out Isaiah Robles. Is that how you say the gentleman's name?
Robles.
Mr. Robles. Yeah, he was wanting to know where the fuck we were last week.
Somebody asked that.
Yeah, it feels like it's been, it's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been like a month. But yeah, so that's cool that he was wanting to know where we were, and I appreciate him listening, which leads to my question. Did you have any, side effects from your second shot? You had Pfizer just like me, right?
Correct. The 2-shot Pfizer. And I got to tell you, not a single symptom or negative effect whatsoever. And I was tempted actually to call you and say, hey, do you want to do this show? Because I'm feeling pretty damn good. And then the even funnier thing was that my wife got her second shot today and she came home sick. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, no, don't tell me that I got to stay up and take care of you. Well, but she took a couple of Tylenol. She's sleeping soundly. And so I think we're in good shape. But thank you for asking. You didn't get any negative effects too, right, after your second shot?
Just the sore armpit.
Yeah.
Like if I raise my arm to put on deodorant like that, the way your arm would extend in that one spot, it hurt for like 3 days. But beyond that, it's just so weird. But I was good. Then the first shot, it felt like someone had hit me savagely in the fucking arm. It was like I took a body shot. But again, both of those being the worst.
Yeah.
So like you said, some people they've essentially gotten COVID from it and are sick as hell,
Hey, I got to tell you, I got a quick football point to make here. I did a show earlier today with Greg Gabriel, the Chicago Bears former director of college scouting, and we're doing a multi-part series where he's basically sharing thoughts about the draft process. So for about an hour and a half earlier today, we talked about what the scouts have been doing and how the pandemic has affected them, how do they prepare their boards and so forth. Lots of really good stuff for the diehard Chicago or any NFL fan who really enjoys the process. And during the course of the discussion, I quoted to him something that the former director of the Reese's Senior Bowl said when he was the general manager. I think it was the Cleveland Browns that he was a general manager. He said that this is the period known as the fog of confusion. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what other teams are up to. Who are they serious about? Who, are they planting stories about a potential interest in this player? Who is really willing to trade or, and just holding back and not saying anything. And I'd like to extend that thought to this is like a really tough time for Bears fans because the only news we're getting is the signing of Marquise Goodwin, a guy who hasn't really played good football in a number of years. He's 30 years old.
But when he played, he did look pretty good, like when Garoppolo first arrived in San Francisco.
Yeah, he did. He's a very speedy guy. I mean, this guy is a world-class track and field star. I mean, even a few months ago, I think he qualified for the Olympics in the long jump or something like that. But his last season, full season, I think with the San Francisco 49ers, he caught like 12 passes. So he might be a little beyond his prime. But my point is boy, we need this draft to happen because I am starving for some really meaty things to talk about. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I kind of dread what else could happen. I met, interestingly, a diehard Giants fan on Saturday night, and I had the extensive conversation with him. And the first thing he said was, Andy Dalton? What the fuck's up with that? Like, why did you want to say Andy Dalton? But I'm actually making him a pile of Giants DVDs, which is fun because usually the only fan base that wants any games from me is Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he even wanted some games of the Bears beat the Giants like in the 80s. He wants all this shit. He's about my age, I think. I think he looked like he's about 40, 41, 42, somewhere through there. Yeah, but to answer your question, you keep hearing that Anthony Miller is going to be traded. You know, I'm like waiting for that to happen. At least we have our safety. Gibson is back.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. You just want something to happen. I keep searching every day for NFL Sunday ticket news.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just something to fill the void where we. But hey, we got to give Fat Mike a shout out because his Jim McMahon podcast has basically gone viral. I'm not jealous of that aspect of it, but I am jealous of the fact that he got McMahon on and I didn't get to talk to him.
I know you desperately want to talk to Jim, and I'm going to work really hard to make that happen. But yeah, Jim McMahon was on the Fat Mike, I think it's called Fat Mike Chicago Sports Talk Show or something like that. And Fat Mike, a friend of the bar room, he got into a conversation with McMahon, and McMahon, of course, was critical. It was nothing new, but I guess what was new is that he said some really nice things about the Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah, I think he praised the organization, saying that Green Bay was the best organization he's ever played for. But again, as you and I have referenced on the show before, McMahon wrote the book, mm-hmm. McMahon with an exclamation point,
mm-hmm.
After the 86 season and did a revision just before the 87 season.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that book essentially got him traded. There's no way around it. Like, you know, he comes back from that injury after Charles Martin. They lose that playoff game when everyone thought they were going to win when he comes in. And then right after that, he's basically gone after one more season. But he was critical of the whole organization and said, if you read the book, and I know you have, but
mm-hmm.
to anyone else listening, he said that, and this is after the 86 season when the Bears just finished 14-2 and could have gone back to another Super Bowl, hypothetically.
Mm-hmm.
He said, they will tear this team apart, being management. They will not keep this team together. The old narrative about how they didn't want to spend any money. And if you think about it, when Jim McMahon was drafted, the first meeting, George Halas brought him in and told him he had a bum arm, he couldn't see, and he should go to Canada. He's like, why the fuck did you draft me? So it's just like, he's always had an adversarial, or he felt that the organization has kind of had an adversarial approach toward him right from the jump,
mm-hmm.
even criticizing him for having the beer, you know, when he got out of the cab.
Right.
So he's always had a negative view. But I guess the only shock with that is I thought all those old wounds had sort of been healed because he was at Bears 100
mm-hmm.
and they started selling his jersey. So I thought, oh, he must be on good terms with them. But evidently he's not. And
mm-hmm.
for the first time, he acknowledged that he thought Trubisky was a bust, and he did a panel with Mitch at Bears 100
mm-hmm.
and tried, you know, to be affable and wish him luck. But obviously his real thoughts were this kid isn't any good.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the story. He shit on the Bears, and he also said he didn't watch the Bears games, but he said that way back then. He said after playing football for so many years, and, you know, when he's not playing, he's bored by it now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because he's not actively involved in it. It just bores the shit out of him now.
And I can understand that.
Yeah, he said that in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah, he was like, if I'm not playing, it's hard for me to be involved as the backup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you're not actively involved, he's like, there's only so much film you can watch before it becomes work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he was saying. As a fan, he can't be a football fan anymore. So that's not a new story either. But, hey, it went viral. and Fat Mike got a lot of love. And I still hate calling him Fat Mike, but he wants to be called Fat Mike.
Oh, well, he's proud of the fact that he's, severely overweight.
Well, I don't want to call and make fun of anybody's weight, but yeah, he always was like, no, it's okay.
He loves it. Yeah. And
I liked Mike, like I said.
Oh, he's a good guy. I
sent him some Bears games. We wish him well. But it's cool that he got some viral love there from the McMahon story. But like I said, I would like to talk to Jim just about the old games and his memories and things like that.
Yeah.
But, I understand why that's a news story because he's talking about current day stuff.
Well, I'm going to work hard to make that happen. I would love to hear you talk to Jim McMahon or any of the older Chicago Bears because you've got that fabulous recall and you can talk to them about specific plays in the third quarter.
I'd love to hear somebody talk about like what I saw as a fan versus what they saw on the field, that kind of stuff. That would be awesome.
We're already getting football questions in the chat room. King Pookie Nation Alvarez is asking, do you think Pace will trade up? And I will answer that quickly and say he is trying desperately to trade up. He really wants to, but I don't think it's going to happen. Ravi says the Bears should trade down. And Ravi, I have a feeling that is exactly what is going to happen. But we'll talk about that later.
I just read an article before we went on. And again, everyone has an opinion, so there's no validity to it beyond its speculation as far as I'm concerned. But it said that the Dolphins are trying to trade down. They have the 6th pick, if I recall from what I read.
That is right.
And they are trying to trade down. So there at least is an opening. I don't know what it would take for Mr. Pace to draft up or to get up to the 6th pick to trade up.
Well, let me ask you, because here's the thing about the trade market this year and trading up. There's so many teams that want to trade up that the price to move up into the 4th pick, which the Falcons hold, and people are saying that they've been entertaining the idea of shipping that trade out, and the Dolphins pick at number 6 and so forth. That could, as you just said, could possibly be available. So would you trade 3 number 1 draft picks and a starting player or a couple of more draft picks, like 2nd round picks, to make that move, given the fact that our 2 starting cornerbacks right now have an injury history? Jalen Johnson, who's coming into his 2nd year, has that shoulder injury that he had in college and finished the season with a shoulder injury. Desmond Trufant, who is considered now the heir apparent to Kyle Fuller. Oh my gosh. He's coming off 2 seasons where he's been injured. So you need cornerback help. You need offensive line help. Everybody's always crying, we need an offensive tackle. We need an offensive tackle. And then you desperately need a quarterback. So you need these 3 positions, but that's not all. You need depth at the inside linebacker position. You need depth at the safety position. You have all of these needs. So are you really going to trade all of these draft assets to move up and get a quarterback and then maybe not surround that quarterback with adequate personnel? What's your thought?
I think the only way you can do that is if potentially you move Mac. And I say that in a favorable sense because Miami is a team that's just on the cusp. They barely missed the playoffs last year. So if maybe potentially if they could add a Mac in their scheme, maybe they think that's what puts them over the top, kind of what the Bears thought they were doing in 2018. So maybe that makes versus Atlanta, who appears to be much farther away from winning. So maybe you could trade Khalil in I don't know, maybe your 1st round pick and maybe a 2nd or something and then move up. Maybe something like that's worthwhile. But if you're talking like 3 first round pick, fuck, I don't want to do any of that shit. I mean, it's the same, my same opposition that I had for Deshaun Watson on the night that we had Braggs on. I was like, come on, man, 4 first round pick, that's a little bit too much. And Watson still day by day gets another accuser at this point. It's really weird. I don't know what to believe at this point either. Apparently he just loves to pull out his cock and, who doesn't? But
allegedly.
Allegedly, for sure.
Yes. Let's make sure.
But I don't know if he's done anything beyond that. I don't know. It's day by day. There's somebody new coming forward. Again, it doesn't convict him in any way. It's just I'm glad we didn't give up, three or four picks to acquire him, and then all of that avalanche of shit just land on us on top of it. He could be our problem, is what I'm saying right now with those accusations.
Right. He could very well be. I every time I talk about this subject, I tread water very carefully here because
rightfully so.
So I just am going to wait until there's more evidence, there's more proof, and I hope that I hope for the best. I don't want to say I hope that everything that he didn't do it, and these women are lying, but that sounds like a bad thing, right? And vice versa. So let's just hope that things clear up and everybody says, all right, I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say regarding that topic. So let's talk about something else. Dan, I mentioned to you, we've got a jam-packed show in terms of a lot of things. And I mentioned to you earlier on that I have a surprise for you.
Oh, okay.
And I've been telling a couple of people in the chat room, stand by here. So in my mind, I was going to save this for later in the show, but I actually have several segments to it. So I think we can do one segment of it now, and then later in the show, do a second segment, and then late in the show, do the third segment. And so what I am talking about is Jeopardy. We know that Aaron Rodgers just finished guest hosting Jeopardy for the late Alex Trebek. And some people loved the way Aaron Rodgers did it. I've got a little clip here. Let's take a look of Aaron Rodgers hosting the show, and then I'll explain to you what we're going to do. All right?
I remember you all doing the Jeopardy about 3 years ago.
That's right, over on 100 Proof, and we had a blast doing it. It was Draft Dr. Phil versus Shane Marsaw. They had a couple of battles, and then we had some guests come in, like Bobby Bombs and so forth. That was a lot of fun. What we're going to do here is a little bit different, but let's first play this Aaron Rodgers clip to see how he did it.
Here are the categories in the Jeopardy round. Tidal waves.
Tidal waves for 200.
Their tsunami of World Series titles includes 1936 to 1939 and 1998 to 2000. Dennis.
Who are the Yankees?
Yes.
Title for 400.
In the 1960s, these Midwesterners earned 5 NFL championship trophies. Green Bay Packers. Dennis, go
Try
again,
title
I guess.
for 600.
They swept over the NBA, winning the title every year from 1959 to 1966. Eric?
What are the Boston Celtics?
Oh, you know that one, huh? Okay.
Tidal waves for...
I thought he did pretty well there. He had the comedic timing. I thought he did well. What'd you think? You're not going to say anything nice about it.
Give him props. He's like the Tribune had a story a few years ago where I mentioned it on air about a year ago, where some young Bears fan met him. He was just incognito, not being Aaron Rodgers, just trying to be in his regular life and trying to blend in, And some fan, like, she said, "Well, I apologize, sir, but I'm a Bears fan." And he was like, "Oh, you should be. You should be." I'm like, yes. But he's like, "Could I take a picture with you?"
Mm-hmm.
And the lady said, the mom said that we're always going to be Bear fans, but we're always going to root for him now too. God, I just hate hearing shit like that. Like, I don't want to root for him, but yeah, he sounded good on Jeopardy. He did. Go host Jeopardy and retire.
Yeah,
that would be great.
I just said that to Ravi in the chat room because Ravi said, I got to admit, he was pretty good. And I go, better if he were to do that instead of playing football, right?
I would like to beat his ass on the field.
Yes.
Like the way we did at the end of Favre's run.
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about that hypocrite sometime tonight too.
Yeah, let me put that on the little list here. Favre, big hypocrite. All right. So, I'm with you. I really, more than anything, I would love to beat the crap out of him for a series of games, just not, one or two, and then he goes away. We did it to Favre. What does your memory say? How many games did we beat Favre towards the tail end of his career?
Well, it started when Lovey got there,
mm-hmm.
and they won in Lambeau, in week 2, but Rex got hurt, so they lost at the end. So they split in 04. The Bears swept them in 05 and won the division title on Christmas at Lambeau Field in 05, which was great with Rex. 06, we beat them 26-0 on opening day. And let's see, the game in Chicago, we lost on New Year's. That's the Rex I wasn't really trying game because it was New Year's. So they split, they swept them, they split, and then the Bears swept them again in 07. So you got what, 1-1, and then they're what, 3-1, 4-2, you know, at the end. So basically they got 2 sweeps at the end and 2 splits in his last 4 years.
All right. Well, that's a lot better than the first, 8-10 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. And if we could get anything like that with Rodgers, it would be tremendous.
I would love that. Really,
we haven't even the only time we swept him at all. Did we sweep them at any point? I'm trying to think when Rodgers has been there. I know in 08 we won on Monday Night Football in Chicago against them.
No. We did not. We've not swept Rodgers.
Yeah, we lost the game up there though. Yeah, so damn, it's time.
It really is
our turn. At some point, it's got to be our turn.
It really, really is. So, but we're unfortunately banking on Andy Dalton beating Aaron Rodgers.
Like I told the Giants fan the other night, I was like, man, I, like every other Bear fan, feels so just disheartened by this acquisition. But come September, I'm going to be rooting for the fucking guy, and I want him to prove me wrong. Hopefully he's the second Cairo Santos. Or hopefully at the end of next season, in a perfect world, we're saying, like, we can't let Dalton go. He signed a 1-year deal. We can't let him walk. He just had this great year. We can't let him go. He's still only 33.
Right.
But hopefully that's the conversation we're having next year. I doubt it, but I hope that it is.
Yeah. Tony Moy in the chat room says, do you guys think the Bears would pick a defensive player in the first round? And I just don't see it right now, although there is the chance that they might get one of these good cornerbacks fall to them at 20, and that is a position of need. Like I said earlier, quarterback, and wide receiver are big-time positions of need. But the cornerbacks that could fall to number 20 in the first round, a couple of them have injury histories. And so, do we want to bring another cornerback who, like, for instance, Caleb Fairley, who has had a back injury? So I don't know. I think they're safer to try to get the quarterback or go offensive line. But again, we will see. All right. I want to talk a little bit about this Jeopardy thing that I'm going to do with you. What we are going to do, Dan, is you are going to play for people in the chat room to win a Bears Barroom Network t-shirt from our newly opened swag shop.
The swag shop is back.
That's right. The swag shop is back. And so I'm going to offer you a clue, and then you've got to answer within like 10 seconds or so in the form of the question. So I'm actually giving you the answer, like in Jeopardy, and then you've got to come up with the question. So I'll give you an example. This is an easy one for you because well, I'm not going to give you a clue. It's just an easy one for you. So here it comes. This is a sample I recorded earlier today. This president hosted the largest dinner ever held at the White House to welcome these American prisoners of war. You know who I'm talking about here?
I don't know the answer to this. I'm guessing next.
Well, you guessed correctly.
See, I thought you were going to say Elvis. Because he famously brought Elvis there, or Joe Frazier. But I was like, tell me anybody. That's what I thought.
No, you got that correct. I picked one from Richard Nixon because you're a big Nixon fan. If you know his life and his actions as president of the United States, you know them so well. I thought that was an easy one. All right.
Going to let everybody
know. You're already getting threats in the chat.
Getting cold feet already.
Let me tell you who you're playing for. The first up will be Ravi, who was the first one in the chat room. So I said, you're number one. So you're going to, the category is bare numbers. Bare numbers. That's the category. Are you nervous?
Yeah, I want to win for this guy.
All right. So here's the thing. We have guest celebrities giving the clues. So it's not going to be me. It's for this category, none other than our good buddy, John Buffon. This is
Wore number 14 all 10 of his NFL seasons, and he'll wear it again in his first year with the Bears.
Who is Andy Dalton?
That is correct, Robbie. You are going to win a t-shirt from the Barroom Network swag shop. All you got to do is contact me either via email, that's Aldo at bearsbarroom.com, or on Twitter, just go to @bearsbarroom, and then we'll work out how we get that t-shirt to you. Very well done. Andy Dalton is indeed going to wear the number that he's worn for the last 10 years.
I got one for you real quick.
Please.
I could be wrong, but off the top of my head, and if I'm wrong, somebody else correct me. Who was the last Bears quarterback to wear 14? I think I already know the answer, but again, I could be wrong. What do you think?
I'm
talking about on the field, not somebody that was playing in the third preseason game or some shit.
Yeah.
Like on the field.
Yeah. So it has to be a wide receiver. And
no, the last quarterback to wear 14.
I'm sorry, the last quarterback. Oh, Virgil Carter. I don't know. That's a long time ago.
I think, unless I'm mistaken, that Brian Greasy was 14.
Oh, yeah, that sounds correct.
I think he was the last guy to don 14 as a quarterback.
PZ is saying the audio is muffled. Is my audio muffled or in the roll-in? PZ, give me a little bit more information on that, and we'll try to rectify it here. But let's go on to our next clue. Let me cue it up here. This category is really up your alley, buddy.
I hope so.
All right, so here it comes.
Is it me that's muffled, or is it you?
No, he said it's the roll-in, it's the clue that sounds a little. But did it sound muffled to you?
No.
All right, well, here it comes. Here's clue number 2. Again, this is John Buffon, the co-host of Buffon 55. He's actually the host, and Alyssa Barbieri co-hosts it with him, and co-host of Bear Football and Pass the Mic. So here's the second clue. Oh, and this one you're playing for King Pookie Nation Alvarez.
All right.
Here it comes.
Trufant will wear number 21 this season. The last player to wear it did so for just 1 year. No joke.
Wow. You're having problems with this one, huh?
I was thinking, I can't think of his fucking name. The guy, the safety we signed from the Texans that played 3 games. Am I wrong?
Yes, you are. Sorry, King Pookie Nation. Dan has let you down.
I'm sorry, sir.
The clue was no joke. Ha ha, Clinton Dix.
Yeah, I should have got it. I'm so sorry, bro.
Neil Stopchinski just stopped into the chat room and he immediately said HCD. JMNA said it was Tracy Porter. No, it wasn't as easy as I thought it was, but Neil knows all the numbers of even all of the college football players that are coming out. Neil Stopchinski knows all of those guys. Not only does he study their play on tape, but he also studies their numbers. All right, we've got one more, and this one is for Tony Moy. This is who you're playing for, Tony Moy, and this is the third and final category, or clue, I should say, under the category Bears numbers. Here it comes.
Bears have retired numbers 40, 41, and 42. Gale Sayers wore number 40. Brian Piccolo wore number 41. This player wore 42.
Are you still thinking?
Yeah.
We got 5 seconds. Are you on Google?
No, I'm gonna guess who is Sid Luckman.
You are absolutely correct. Oh, Tony Moy.
Straight out of my ass, though. I kept thinking, I was like, Bronco and the girl. I was going through the people. I was like, nah, he's number 3. Hallis is 7. That's what I was trying to contemplate who it could be. So I did not know that, though. That was a guess.
Lots of people guessing.
I did know the Andy Dalton one. I did know the Dalton one. The Luckman was a guess. I was lucky for the luck man. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to continue playing the other 2 categories? Should we knock this out of the park and then get back to our regularly scheduled stuff?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. So next category. Let's see. Which one should I pick here? Let me pick NBA draft. NBA draft. Is that something you feel comfortable with?
It depends what era it is. I mean, like, I haven't really watched the NBA since like the Shaq D Wade era of Miami. So
right,
I've checked in on the Golden State era, but I haven't really been a fan enough to watch it. So if you're going to ask me about the 2012 NBA draft, I'm going to let somebody down.
Oh, well, I got to pick some people for you to play for. All right. We got Tony Solomonski. You're going to be first. Let me pick JMNA 935 7. He's second. And then who is my third player here? Can't pick anyone who works for the barroom. Sorry, fellas. I'm scrolling. Oh, PZ, my brother. All right, here it goes. Again, the category is NBA draft, and the 2 gentlemen providing the clues are the co-hosts of our Saturday night Bulls basketball show, Bulls 101. They are Laurel Golden and Chris Amundsen, and this is the first clue.
The 1984 NBA draft produced 4 future Hall of Famers, and they are
Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley,
and this guard picked 16th from Gonzaga University.
Is absolutely correct. Holy cow, you are good at this game.
If I didn't hear Gonzaga, I wouldn't have known.
Oh, really? That was the key one, huh? Well,
Right.
I'll have you know that the show co-host didn't know the answer to that either. And Lara is in the chat room. I think he didn't get this one, and neither did Chris. So that was a tough one. All right, so I got Tony Solomonski. You are a winner. Contact me, all the winners. Contact me either on direct message on Twitter or Facebook. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Aldo Gandia, and or send me an email, aldo@bearsbarroom.com. I'll need your address and sizes, and we'll get you a barroom that lets you fit. All right. You feeling confident about the second one? No. I can't see it. Well, I can tell you, I DM'd on Twitter, Bears Barroom Dope. Okay. I can tell you that I am going to boost the audio up on this second one. Here comes clue number 2, NBA draft.
Fifth overall in the 1987 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics, Scotty Pippen was traded for future draft considerations.
and for this Haitian 7-footer who would go on to play 15 seasons but never win a ring, while Scotty won 6.
Haitian 7-footer ever won a ring, 15 seasons in the NBA, was part of that trade.
I know he came from Seattle, but I don't know the answer to this.
Oh, I am sorry, JMNA9357, and he's got a guess. It's Shawn Kemp, and it is not Shawn Kemp. He's Haitian born. He is none other than Olden Polynice.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was going to say Shawn Kemp, but back in those days was a power forward, so he played center when he got a little bit heavier.
Well, given that you brought up Shawn Kemp, I've got to share this story that David Kaplan from ESPN 1000, he was on Bulls 101, and I urge you to listen to this interview, even if you're not a huge Bulls fan.
He's great. Everything he does.
Fabulous. He is just fabulous. And so he, towards the end of the interview, if you just want to hear him say the story, go towards the end of the interview. He stuck around with the guys for an entire hour. And Laro asks him, is there something weird, some weird story? And David Kaplan goes, do you know the story about Shawn Kemp and Scotty Pippen? And it was a 5 or 10 minute story. I'll just give you the highlight. There was a trade agreed upon between the Seattle Supersonics and the Chicago Bulls, and this was after the season of the migraine headache when the Bulls lost to the Detroit Pistons in Game 7. And that trade was done. David Kaplan runs into Shawn Kemp's agent in an elevator, and they start talking, and the agent reveals to Kaplan that this trade is a done deal. Kaplan gets it confirmation on it from somebody else. He reports it on the air. And what happens? The trade starts to fall apart, because when people in Seattle started to hear that Shawn Kemp was being traded for the guy with the migraine headache, season ticket holders said, I'm done. We don't want that guy. And so the trade was reversed. It was never official to begin with, but the Seattle Supersonics reneged on the agreement, and the trade was done. Isn't that a great story? And the way Cap says it is much better than what I said it. So
yeah, I obviously didn't know it. It's an incredible story, and Shawn Kemp is kind of like Steve Francis to me, and someone that was just amazing and just so athletic, could jump out the gym and then like in the blink of an eye was gone. Like he was so good for, a decade with the Supersonics. He gets moved to Cleveland. He's still good. They have the lockout, and then he's never the same.
Right.
I mean, suddenly he's reportedly smoking crack, but I mean, I'm not making weight jokes. I mean, he was the only guy that was gaining weight while he was smoking crack.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but he was so good during his run with Seattle. That would have been, dare I say, the Bulls would have been better with Kemp. I think like the Kemp that was playing then. He was a force.
He was unbelievable. There's no doubt about it. But the Seattle wanted to get rid of him because of all the off the court stuff that wasn't public at the time. And they were concerned about his future. So they wanted to make that deal. And it would have been interesting to see how Kemp would have responded to Jordan's leadership style. Would he have bought into it and kept his nose straight? Or not. And I got to believe that the trade would not have worked out in the Bulls' favor, because Scottie Pippen was the perfect Robin to Jordan's Batman.
Yeah, but I'll play devil's advocate and say that Detroit, although they didn't win the title with Adrian Dantley, he was a scoring champion who went there and was kind of salty about being back, number 2 to Isaiah, but it worked for a little bit. They went to the finals, almost won the title. And then Mark Aguirre, no relation, was actually the number 1 player in the draft, picked over Isaiah, and was the scoring guy with the Mavericks, and came to Detroit and was sort of a role player and had been the guy with the Mavericks. So I'm saying and when he was in Dallas, people said he had an attitude problem. So that's what I'm saying is, but maybe he did like Isaiah already.
Yeah.
But I'd have to think if Kemp was in Chicago with Jordan starting the 1990-91 season, both guys neither have won a ring yet. They're going to be hungry as shit, and they probably could have won 72 games that year.
They probably could have. That is true.
But that's a question though. For Bulls fans, because again, I'm not a Bulls fan, but I know that era really well. If you have Kemp there, then you never have the emergence of Horace Grant, and you never have Dennis Rodman ever. Right. Because why would you make the trade for him if you have Kemp?
Exactly.
So is that a move that, as a Bulls fan, that you want then? In hindsight, because do you want Rodman there? Do you want Grant there? Or you say, fuck it, we could have an icon in Kemp, who really was at that time he looked like a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I'm a Bulls fan, that's a trade. God, it'd be hard to turn that down. I think I would be in favor of taking Kemp.
Jay MNA 9357 says 8 rings with Kemp on those Bulls teams. I'll tell you another story. I remember, but I don't remember exactly when this happened. I remember listening to Mike North on the Score Sports Radio, and he was advocating for the trade of Scottie Pippen for Shawn Kemp. But I think this was after they had a ring or two in their portfolio. And I remember thinking, I got to call Mike and tell him he's crazy. He's crazy. Pippen is perfect for Jordan. And I never got a chance to get the call through on the Score. I'll talk to Mike about that on Wednesday. But what a fabulous story. It's not often that a guy who works on the radio kills a major trade in the NBA or any league for that matter.
Well, let me ask you before we get back to Jeopardy.
Sure.
A fun Bulls like fantasy booking question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't even mean like the Kemp trade for Scotty, which is a great story.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say a guy that was one of your favorite opponents. Maybe Charles Barkley, maybe Patrick Ewing. I don't know. I don't know the answer. If you could have picked up somebody that didn't have a ring, let's say for the last team, they're going to get one more title ring. They're going to beat Utah, and you just kind of slide one guy in. Maybe he's done, maybe he's not, so he can go out with a ring on that last Bulls team. Who would you want on the team? Like somebody that didn't get a ring.
Oh man, I would probably say somebody. The first person in my mind was Karl Malone, but then there's been some stories about him over the last few years that he's kind of not a very pleasant person. So I probably would say John Stockton. Who else? Charles Oakley.
Yeah. Oh, I love Oakley. Yeah,
I love Oakley, and I think it perhaps was the best thing to trade him because you had Horace Grant, and Oakley was such an intimidating. I mean, he used to push Scottie Pippen around like he was a younger brother. Oh, Peasy's got the best answer here. Dominique Wilkins.
Yeah, and Dominique had by 98 would have been one of those guys on your bench too. So yeah, that is a good answer too. I was thinking, again, I'm not a Bulls fan, but I kind of was going with Ewing in my own head. Ewing went to the finals twice, but didn't get to play the second time. He got hurt.
Yep. I'm with you. He's such a nice guy.
He was a great player,
Yep. Great player, a great guy. I've heard him talk about how painful it is that he has never won a ring. So he's a perfect candidate. Somebody also brought up Gary Payton, who, by the way,
but he did win with the Heat, though.
Oh, that's right. I think you're right.
He was on the 06 team, wasn't he?
That is right.
Yeah,
that is right. And by the way, Gary Payton today says that it was reported that today he said LeBron James is the best all-time player over Michael Jordan. And so I wonder if he wasn't motivated by some of the things that Jordan said on The Last Dance about Peyton, that, there's still no way he could have guarded me and so forth.
Yeah, he did shit on him, and that was unfortunate. But it's also unfortunate to say I'm a LeBron hater, so I might as well just move on. I'm not pro Jordan as much as I am anti-LeBron in terms of. But if LeBron keeps winning into his 40s, though, then I'll have to reevaluate. Because if he's got like 3 decades of winning, then maybe I need to take notice. Albeit, he's got a stacked team he's always on. But then again, the last 3 Jordan teams had Rodman, and
right.
And Kukoc was, the great player overseas, and you still had Scotty, so you still were kind of loaded. But initially, obviously, Scotty and Jordan came up together. At least they didn't just put together a bomb squad, which obviously LeBron has done repeatedly.
Yeah. Here's another guy who I would have loved to have seen win a championship, but Clyde Drexler.
Clyde did win. Clyde won the second Rockets title.
Oh, that's right. Of course.
Yeah, they traded Otis Thorpe, who was the only rebounder on the team. Basically, I don't know why Portland wanted to move on from Clyde so badly.
Yeah.
And get this, when that trade happened, the Rockets people were mad. They thought it was a bad trade because they had nobody to board after that at all. But obviously, Clyde, he was essential in winning the second championship for sure. So, yeah, Clyde got a ring, the second one.
Oh, well, then screw him. All right, let's get back to the final question of the NBA draft in this second portion of Jeopardy. And you're playing for PZ this time, PZ. So here comes the clue from our guys, Chris Amundsen and Lara Golden.
Drafted by the Bucks in 1972, he chose to not join Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson.
And instead, he decided to operate for the ABA's Virginia Squires.
Instead, he decided to operate with the ABA's Virginia Squires.
Is this Dr. Julius? Who is Dr. J. Julius?
Thank you. You have it correct. You won it for PZ. Oh, PZ, get a hold of me. We're going to ship you a Barroom Network t-shirt. Yeah, well done.
So Dr. J was drafted on the same team with Kareem with the Bucks?
Yes, Kareem and Oscar
Wow.
Robertson. Can you imagine what that would have looked like?
Yeah, and Dr. J ends up not with getting a ring until 83. So I think he would have probably wished he had come to the NBA sooner.
Yes. I mean, I think he got some pretty good cash over there with the Virginia Squires, which was probably the motivating factor. But boy, oh boy, I think I would, if I had a chance to interview him, I would ask him, do you regret that you didn't get a chance to play with the Big O and Kareem? I mean, that would have been outstanding, man.
Like I've told you before, I wish I could have seen young Kareem, because when I saw him, you know, he was still scoring with that damn hook. I don't know why, but I don't know why nobody could stop it. But he was like 38, 39, 40, 41, 42 the last couple of years I saw him play. So I never got an accurate picture of how great Kareem was. Same thing with Moses Malone. I saw Moses at the end too.
Yeah. You know, and I remember Kareem being the most unstoppable offensive player of his era and probably would still be today because of the sky hook. I mean, he would kind of get that left arm out, and then that I'd already he was 7'1", 7'2", and then that hand was already touching the rim, you know, and so sometimes it wasn't even a hook shot as he was kind of throwing it down. It was just an almost impossible shot to stop. And defensively, though, he didn't have that strength to compete against, you know, guys like if he would have played against a Shaq O'Neal, that would have been something to see, because I think Shaq would have just overpowered him. And I remember as a kid seeing him play up against Artis Gilmore, and I think Gilmore pushed him around a little bit. I mean, those Bulls teams were very aggressive and physical. I mean, they were that era's bad boys. I mean, the Bulls had some really rough teams with Jerry Sloan and Norm Van Leer and Dennis Autry. Boy, those guys would just kill you. But yeah, now you've got a great collection of NFL football DVDs from yesteryear. Do you have NBA stuff too?
Yeah, but most of my NBA stuff is Rocket Central, you know.
Okay.
I've got, you know, some, you know, random playoff games and finals and things like that, but overwhelmingly most of my stuff would be Rockets, you know.
Big Olajuwon fan, right?
Love the Keem, and then I love the next era too, like told you, Steve Francis, Cuttino Mobley, Moochie Norris. I love the early 2000s. I love the early 90s, the mid 90s, the late 90s. I was a big Rockets guy, but it was because of Hakeem, though.
Right. Well, all right. Let me find some contestants for our final category. Let's see who has joined us recently. As I scroll around, Hugh Heavens. Your name is now on the board. Hugh Heavens.
Speaking of the NBA, the referee, Hugh Evans.
Oh, the great Hugh Evans. Oh, come on, people. come on out in the chat room and say you want in. Or let's see, we haven't had any new voices in there. Let's get the first one out of the way, and then when somebody comes in, we'll anoint them as the person that you'll be playing for. Now, this final category here is something that we call Pass the Mic. Guess what the topic is about?
Broadcasters.
Female sports broadcasters. This is in honor of the show that John Buffone and Alyssa Barbieri do here at the Barroom Network, where they tell the story of female broadcasters, people who have been in the industry for a long time, women who are just joining the industry, and highlight, what they're doing, what are some of the struggles that they've had to overcome, and so forth. It's a great, great series. And
so I can't talk about how hot they are then.
Well, you probably could, but I don't know. That's a great question. I never thought about that. We will not have you as a guest host on that show. I know that.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So our guest celebrity clue person is none other than the very first guest on that show. She is a 12-time Emmy Award winner, sportscaster. She does the Sportscaster and Her Son podcast. She is, of course, Peggy Kaczynski, and she's got the first clue. Listen closely.
Great beat writer for a long time.
A female sports reporter pioneer. She won 11 Emmys, but might best be remembered for the classic biography that she wrote about Bears running back Brian Piccolo.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Oh, man.
That's not my era. I didn't get to see Piccolo play. You can't watch anything from the 60s either. I don't know.
Well, but did you see the movie Brian Song?
No, I've got it, but I just have never watched it.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm going to watch that fucking movie soon.
Oh, well,
maybe next weekend.
Okay. Well, she, the person that we're talking about here didn't write the script or the movie, but the book that she wrote did have an influence on the movie. And I can understand why you don't know who this woman was. It's because she was a local Chicago's first sports writer and then television personality, television broadcaster. In fact, she was one of the first, I think she was the first woman in Chicago sports media industry to cover a Super Bowl. Her name, of course, Jeannie Morris. She was married to
Johnny Morris's wife.
To Johnny Morris, that's right. And I used to work with her for a few years over at the WBBM TV. She recently passed away. Jeannie Morris is a godsend, a true icon of Chicago sports media. And so that's the first one. Hey, we've got a new person in here. It's Travis Dunaway. Travis, we've got a question coming up for you that, by the way, it was, who was it that just lost that one? Hugh. Sorry, Hugh. Travis, this next one is for you. Since you
sorry, Travis, in advance.
I got a feeling you're going to know this one. I really do. All right. Let me get this one out of the way here and then go here. Again, the category is Pass the Mic, and I'm very confident.
She served as the First Lady of Kentucky from 1979 to 1983, but she's best remembered for being the first woman to co-host a nationally televised pregame show, the NFL Today.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Wasn't she Miss America too?
Yes.
Oh God! Why can I can see her in my fucking head? It's my Brent.
Her daughter works over at CNN. Pamela Brown is her name.
I know. Let me think. How much time do I got?
You got. How much time should we give him? Travis is saying give him 30 minutes.
Oh man, I do know this. I can't think of her name though. She was on NFL Today like 75
along
when
with
it first started. Yeah, and then she left and came back
right
because they had the really, really hot black lady that took her place.
What was her name?
See, that's the way I feel about See, the one that we're talking about famously interviewed Roger Staubach.
That's right.
And he said that he likes sex as much as who was he talking about? I guess was it Brad? It couldn't have been Bradshaw. I think he was saying he likes sex as much as Joe Namath.
Namath, yeah.
Yeah, but he just did it with one lady. So God damn it, how can I not think of her name?
Robbie is saying, are you done Googling yet?
No, I swear I'm not Googling. I have no reason to. God, what? Give me an initial. Can I get an initial?
Yeah, PG. In this R-rated show, PG.
PG?
Yeah. Again,
I don't know why I can't.
She worked alongside Brent Musburger, Irv Cross.
I know, yeah, I can see her in my head, but I can't think of her fucking name. She's there with Jimmy the Greek. She's there with Irv Cross. She's there with Brent Musburger. And she was Miss America. And I can't think of her name.
She is the very talented Phyllis George.
Phyllis George, yeah. I couldn't think of her name. And then, like, the black lady was incredible, too.
Robbie
in terms of her, hers was sex appeal more so than substance. But
Robbie asked if it was Pam Grier. No.
Pam Grier is good looking, too.
What was the name of the African-American woman who took over for Phyllis George? She was married to a guy who did a boxing movie. Oh, jeez. And she was gorgeous.
I think maybe she did a Playboy kind of deal too.
She did. She did some provocative posing, but all right. We don't have a player yet for this final question. So what I'm going to
her name was Jane something. Jane Kennedy?
Jane Kennedy. That's her. Jane Kennedy.
I can remember her name, but not Phyllis George.
PJ just came in and said Kennedy. Monica Olesek. Monica, you are the next contestant. She got it correctly. She said Jane Kennedy. So you're going to be playing for Monica here.
Good. I want to win for Monica.
All right. So here's the final one. And again, this is the lovely Peggy Kaczynski offering up the clue.
Named to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018, she played for the Providence Friars and now is an analyst for ESPN and ABC.
I'm going to guess, but I don't know. Who is Doris Burke?
You are absolutely correct.
I did not know the answer.
You didn't know that Doris Burke was a college basketball star player?
I don't want to sound like I don't care about women's basketball.
But you don't.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be an asshole about it.
That is hilarious.
But no, I didn't know. I just knew her from the sidelines. So.
All right, Monica, you are a winner. So drop me a message in my Twitter at Bears Barroom. We'll need a size for your shirt and an address where we can send it to. And the other winners, who do we got? Travis.
I'm so sorry, whoever I fucked up on Phyllis George for. I'm so sorry.
Hugh Heavens, who says he didn't know the answer either, so he doesn't feel too bad.
I did know the answer, and I couldn't think of it.
I thought for sure you were going to get that one. I thought,
but I
sure.
did. I mean, I could see her in my fucking head. I couldn't think of her name.
And you've got a lot of games on DVD from that era. Was she a part of those recordings that you had?
Yeah. There's a lot of the halftimes and post games on there.
Yeah,
sure. And a lot of pre-games too.
And Phyllis George was the very first woman to do a pre-game show for the Super Bowl. She did it for Super Bowl 10. So she's got a number of historic things in the sports media
I've got
business.
that Super Bowl wall to wall.
Is that right? So yeah, next time you watch that and you watch the halftime portion of that, there'll be Phyllis George, and you'll be thinking about Hugh Heavens.
My favorite Super Bowl 10 story is, again, my movie Black Sunday had all those shots filmed there.
Oh, great movie. John Frankenheimer film. Totally great film. You just saw that recently, right?
No. I had that on VHS in the early 1990s. The reason why I got it was because of Steve Sable, actually, on Super Bowl highlights on the way, apparently, to the Orange Bowl in Super Bowl 13. Either the Steelers or Cowboys. One of them got diverted and got lost on their team bus. And Steve Sable joked that whoever was on the bus said, "Oh my God, it's Black Sunday. They've taken us hostage," or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, it's about this film." And Steve Sable referenced it. So I went and got the fucking movie like right after I saw Steve Sable talking about it.
That is great.
So I've been seeing, I saw it 93 maybe. It's one of my favorite movies.
It is a great film, and I'm a big fan of that director, John Frankenheimer. He's made a lot of good movies, and in fact, The Manchurian Candidate is one of my all-time favorite movies. You ever seen that one, Dan?
I saw the Denzel one, but I do have the older one on my TiVo to watch from TCM right now. It's saved on there. I haven't watched it yet, though.
Now, you started watching TCM at my urging, huh?
Yeah, well, I thought that the shit was edited. I didn't know that the movies were like with the nudity and the cussing and stuff and without commercials. So, yeah, I'll watch it for sure.
Yeah. We both, Dan and I just recently saw the Dustin Hoffman movie, the Straight Time, it's called. And we were happy to announce that there was plenty of nudity in it. So. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about. Let's stay on the topic of movies, because you just saw a movie that I would urge everyone to see, and that is a movie starring Dustin Hoffman, where he plays the famous comedian Lenny Bruce. And for those of you who don't know, Lenny Bruce was arrested a number of times because he, in his stand-up comedy in nightclubs, he would say the famous 7 bad words, and his comedy was very risque and so forth. And he did a lot of shows here in Chicago, and the Chicago police, under then Mayor Richard Daley, they would lock him up. And why don't you tell us your impressions in the movie and anything regarding the plot line?
The plot line is sort of the way a reality show is right now. Like, you'll have the story that's going, and then they cut to somebody who's talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, MTV used this a lot during the early days of The Real World, where they would be showing you a sequence, and then one of the players that was in that scene would be telling you their viewpoints on it, like after the fact. And that they did this a lot during Lenny. So you're seeing it happen sequentially or linear, you know,
right?
But they would be talking to the lady that was in, she was in Superman. I'm not a big comic book fan or anything, but when I was a kid, I loved the Christopher Reeve Superman film and Superman 2 as well. But she was Gene Hackman's, I guess they were supposed to be his lover, but she was Miss Tessmacher, Lex Luthor's lady, and that's the girl that Dustin Hoffman is fucking in Lenny. So she, I guess, goes to jail for dope, right? Wasn't that what put her in prison?
That is correct.
Yeah, so you keep seeing their mistakes, and you can tell already that the film, that Dustin Hoffman's character is already dead. Because it's everyone giving you their past tense reflections on him while the story's going. I guess the only detriment to some younger people would be perhaps that the film is in black and white, and it's not because, it's old. Even, I guess technically it is old, but it was clearly shot in 74, so there's plenty of color TV by that point.
Oh yeah.
But I think in this instance, and I'm not a huge fan of black and white because it's not nostalgia for me at all, but I think that made this film grittier because it was like, you know, him in like little shithole comic places, you know, getting arrested for just pulling out observations out of the newspaper. And it was so like I said, it's gritty is my favorite word, my best word for it. It's a very gritty film. A lot of the humor in it, let me preface this by saying, today's woke police would ban this movie.
Yes.
Like, you're never going to see this on Turner Classic Movie. I don't think. If you do, you're going to have the guy from the Young Turks, Ben Mankiewicz, on telling you about, hey, this movie says the N-word. This movie says this, and this movie says that. A lot of uncomfortable shit in it. Like, there's one scene where he literally keeps saying various racial slurs about everybody in the room. Over and over and over. But within like 2 minutes, he's got everybody laughing.
Right.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
He's dropping the N-word. And like I said, all the ethnic stuff that I don't want to repeat against even Jewish people, against himself.
That's right.
And at the end of the scene, he was like, the point is, if we weren't so afraid to say the word, then that impact that hits like such like a fucking uppercut. If we weren't so afraid to say it, maybe the word, when people say it to hurt you, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. It's kind of what the gist of his bit was. But the movie was really good. Like I said, I got to see Miss Tessmacher naked, and being a fan of her in the Superman film, I enjoyed that. But yeah, it was a good movie. I wish I had it. I wish I had it on DVD or Blu-ray or something. It's not really out of print, but every place I looked, it was like $30. I'm like, fuck it. Maybe it'll come on Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah, actually, I somebody just they were talking about The Godfather, but yeah, I think I've seen it on TCM. So if I do spot it again, I'll let you know. But yeah, the film was directed by Bob Fosse, who is one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. One of the films that he did was a picture with Roy Scheider called All That Jazz, which is a semi-autobiographical film. It's basically a story about a guy who works in theater doing Broadway musicals, but is also a filmmaker. And while he is in the film, while he is directing a new play that's about to come out, a musical play, he is also working on a movie, which is clearly Lenny. And so it's a very interesting semi-autobiographical story, and it has one of the best death scenes ever filmed. I sometimes will go to YouTube and just watch the closing scene, the last 5 minutes of this death scene. I'm not going to tell you who died or what happens or anything like that. I don't want to give it away. But the best way to describe it is that when I go, I wish I go the way he or she went in this movie, because it's really beautifully done. But yeah, that's a great one. So what else have you seen recently? Oh, you saw another old black and white.
Well, let me do a play off of what you just said quickly.
Please.
You mentioned Roy Scheider. He's also in a really good Dustin Hoffman film, since we're mentioning him as Lenny Bruce, which I should also say quickly before, without Lenny Bruce, I mean, maybe we don't have Sam Kinison or George Carlin or Eddie Murphy or Rodney Dangerfield or Andrew Dice Clay, anybody that become really famous at one point for dirty language. Like, they owe a lot to this guy.
Very true.
This guy is like the Howard Stern of his field. Yeah. So in terms of the pioneer of obscenity, like Howard was for FM radio, that's kind of the way he was on the stand-up circuit scene. But Roy Scheider was in a really good Dustin Hoffman movie as well. And it had, we mentioned Black Sunday. She was in that. And she dated Al Pacino. She was in Bobby Deerfield. And she's in this movie called Marathon Man.
Oh, great movie.
Her name is, like, I guess it's Martha, but it's spelled Marthe, or is it Marthy? I don't know. She's international. She's Swedish, I think.
Yeah.
But her name's like Martha Keller. And like I said, she is the Palestinian, like, she's not really Palestinian, but she's the Palestinian lady in Black Sunday that's with Bruce Dern trying to blow up Super Bowl 10 in the blimp.
Oh, that's right.
And she's Dustin Hoffman's lover in Marathon Man, and Roy Scheider is his brother.
Yeah.
And like I said, she's with Pacino and Bobby Deerfield, where he's the race car driver.
Right.
And then they started fucking in real life after that.
Ah, that's right. I forgot about that. Man, you got a great memory.
But you were going to ask me about the Nuremberg movie? Is that where you were going next?
Yeah, so you saw a movie called Judgment at Nuremberg. This is a movie from the late 40s, I want to say. It's a classic. I actually saw it for the
61.
1961. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And it takes place. The movie takes place in the
Yes.
mid to late 40s. That's what I should have said. So I saw it about almost 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Spencer Tracy, Maximilian Schnell, Burt Lancaster. Give us your review on that old classic.
The acting is superb, like to the point where it's a 3-hour movie. The only thing I was disappointed in it at all is because I don't really know much about. I knew about the Nuremberg trials and the people that were, really, really guilty of like the atrocities. But this movie's not about them. This isn't the military, the Nazi guys. These are the judges that help facilitate their decisions in court. So I didn't really know about what they did with the judges just rolled over and gave Hitler what he wanted, or the doctors, or whoever's performing experiments. I kind of didn't really know about the lower level. So I hoped when I was watching it, I didn't look it up until it was over. I was hoping that what I was watching was not just straight fiction. Again, it is historical fiction because it's based on reality, but the character that Burt Lancaster plays, essentially the whole film is kind of silent. And like 2 hours and 40 minutes into it, he just stands up and he's like, I can't fucking take this anymore. And he just gives this soliloquy about how he's guilty and this is how he's guilty. And this regime was, facilitated all this madness, and fuck it, I'm guilty. I can't sit back here and hide anymore.
Right.
And he gives this long speech where he just like his attorney is like objecting, and the judge is like, no, let him go. Let him go. And I was like, wow, what a great historical figure this guy will be, like repudiating his own country and his own actions and things. And it's fiction. So that's the only thing I didn't like about it. But the movie is superbly acted.
Yeah.
There's one more thing that's not good. And again, it's 1961. So I'm sure they were doing top of the line stuff then. Early in the film, they're in a car. And oh my God. I mean, this is the worst green screen you've ever seen.
Real projection is called back then, yeah.
Holy fuck. It was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could talk for 30 minutes about that particular topic. I hated that so many of the older films did that rear projection, and it was just never convincing. And a lot of lovers of film from that era always try to make excuses for it. And I was like, come on, it was just a cheap way to shoot somebody driving. They should have fucking taken the car outdoors and propped up a camera. It would have cost more, but it would have looked a hell of a lot better. But nonetheless, I've seen that movie. It is a great movie. It's an indictment of people who just stayed silent, people in Germany who stayed silent. They knew what was going on. They knew that people were being mass murdered in these concentration camps, and they kept quiet. They were all afraid. And it's a statement also about really what is happening today. There are a lot of people who are trying to sweep under the rug the January 6th attack on our Capitol. And you can draw parallels between what happened in Germany under Nazi leadership and what has happened with many in the Republican Party who just don't want to bring anybody to justice for what happened. And
before we piss off any conservatives in the room,
sorry, Tony,
I agree with you, but I also want to say, Maxine Waters, please shut the fuck up.
Yes, I was actually just saying that to my wife. It's like, please, don't. The judge in that case today said it correctly. He said all of the politicians should fulfill their oath to the Constitution, and let the justice system play out. Now, I understand the anger. Justice hasn't always worked correctly in many cases. And so there are people who are justifiably angry about that. But our elected leaders should not be the ones saying.
But the thing I have to, and I hate to agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I do. I hate to agree with her but we can't sit around as liberals and say that the president, that Donald Trump, was responsible for January the 6th and inciting violence. And then if something were to happen, pretend that Maxine Waters didn't do the same.
Yep.
I mean, it's a different level. I get it. Everything's not congruent on things because, again, Trump, he was tweeting about this a month in advance. Like, January 6th is going to be wild and be there and all this. But she did basically encourage people to come out and to be aggressive and to break the law and to be violent. And if a Republican would have done that, we would be pounding our chests saying, see, they're fascists. Look at them. Look at what they're doing. And because she did it, the liberals will give her a pass, and that's not fair.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And who is it? Travis just put up, it's an even mix, Aldo, not just one side. One side incites a lot of this. So, it's hard to, and Tony is back at calling people libtards and stuff, but it's hard to argue.
But he has to agree with what I just said about Maxine Waters, I would think.
I would think so too. Tony Salamansky. I love saying that name. Salamansky. There's something, man, tough about that name. He should be a linebacker with that name. Tony Salamansky, number 55 for the Chicago Bears.
He sounds like you'd be like Dick Butkus' best friend. On road games, they traveled together. They were roommates.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Salamansky, Butkus.
Exactly. All right. Let us change the subject.
Well, let me get one more film because I wanted you to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I told you, I was like, man, this is a good fucking movie. I had never even heard of it. And you said, shit, I knew some guys that were extras on this.
That's right.
1983. And to give context, he had done like one film that was popular, but it was a comedy. And I hated his character in it, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. To me, the only redeeming part about that film is watching Phoebe Cates get out of the pool and Judge Reinhold's head when he's masturbating. Like, to me, that's the movie. As Judge Reinhold makes the movie for me. But and Sean Penn's like a stoner caricature of a pothead, somebody that I would want to see punched. Like I just totally hate his character in the film, but I realize it's iconic. But after this movie, he's taking a big risk because he's sort of becoming a star. And it would be like Jim Carrey after Ace Ventura if he just said, fuck it, I'm going to go do Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind now. Or The Truman Show now. He didn't do that. He went to Dumb and Dumber. He went to Ace Ventura 2. He went to Liar, Liar. You kind of build on the genre that you're in. But Sean Penn took a risk and played a controversially dramatic film that dealt with a lot of sensitive topics even then, with violence and rape and prison and ethnic problems between the races. And it was really dark, man. And he pulls it off significantly, tremendously in the film. It's called Bad Boys, not to be confused with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence and their franchise, because this is from '83.
Correct.
But you have the guy that I love so much in Pet Sematary 2. He's the asshole bully they call Viking. And it's, God, what's his name? Clancy Brown. He does a lot of voice work.
Okay.
And Ali Sheedy was in it. She was a star in the 80s. She's the one that's his girlfriend that gets raped. But anyway, so they go to prison. And you told me privately that I guess you would call him the antagonist of the film.
Correct.
Got a lot of pussy offset, and that some of your friends were extras in the prison.
That's right. First of all, yeah, regarding Sean Penn, I've got a picture of him up on the screen, and he was fabulous in this movie. And I heard from some of the friends who were extras in this film that he was really an intense actor and commanded the set and was
and he's young then. He's really young.
Oh yeah, if you see this picture that I've got up on the screen, he looks like he's 16, 17 years old. He's probably older than that. I'm sure older than 18.
Let me interrupt just one
Please,
second
go ahead.
to add to what you said. I was reading what the director was talking about the film after I watched it. He said, well, I can't remember what Sean Penn's name was in the film. He was checking into hotels under that name, even got the tattoos and shit that he had. Those were real. Like he got he was so into the character that he became the character.
Right.
Like he even got the guy's tattoos. Like I said, checked into hotels under his name. It's kind of like Mitchell Trubisky and Pace and James McMahon.
That's right.
Hey, go ahead.
So his co-star, the antagonist in the movie, Esai Morales, have got his picture up on the screen, and he, in this photograph, he is talking to the kid in the movie, who is his younger brother, and this kid was the brother of somebody I went to high school with. The kid I went to high school with, his name was Eric David, and this was his younger brother who was cast in this big role. And Eric, and Eric had a.
So did you know him from like the street? I mean, like you hung out with the brother at some point?
Oh yeah, I mean,
like you knew him before he was in this film, is what I'm saying.
Oh yes, absolutely. What the full story? I won't get into all the details because it could take a while. But basically, what happened was when I went to Roberto Clemente High School, and there was a film and radio TV program. We used to make films there, and so when I graduated, I went to Columbia College. The kids in that film. Radio TV film, I would go back and help them with certain projects and so forth. And during that one summer when they were shooting Bad Boys, Eric David and a bunch of the other kids in that class were hired as extras. And then I learned that Eric's younger brother was a part of the film. Now, Eric and we used to smoke dope up and down, left and right, in between class. we got high all the time. But Eric would come around and tell us these stories about what was going on in the set. And Esai Morales was fucking every chick he could talk to. And at times he would be in his trailer having sex, and the crew was like trying to get him out because allegedly, and I'll put it that way because I didn't see it myself, but these are the stories that I heard. He was there just having sex multiple times a day with different women, and he was having the time of his life. Esai Morales, who has gone on to have a solid career. I think the last thing I saw him on was the Jason Bateman Netflix show, season 1 of Ozarks, where he played.
I
drug
really
dealer.
hated Ozark.
Really?
I didn't know he was on there. That's cool.
Yeah, he plays the drug kingpin guy who.
Oh yeah, the one that forces him to go to Ozark.
Yes, exactly. Diabolical character, man. Oh my goodness. And so anyway, Esai Morales, and back then he had to be 18, 19 years old. He was laying some pipe, as we used to say back then.
The cool thing about this film, if you don't mind me interjecting, is his character and Sean Penn's character both have made big mistakes. Like Sean Penn's brother, or Sean Penn accidentally hit his brother with a car. It was clearly manslaughter, not murder or anything like that. But he accidentally ran over this guy's brother and killed him in the street. Now, meanwhile, what's his name again? Morales?
Esai Morales.
Oh yeah, he rapes Ali Sheedy for revenge, which is Sean Penn's girl in the movie. So while they're in prison, they both have shades of gray. Like they both could work as an anti-hero. Which one is more heinous? Someone that accidentally killed someone with a car because they were drunk or high or whatever the circumstances, or the person that rapes? I mean, they're both bad. But they're both characters. You can write a script or a paragraph or something. You can you can come up with a way to, you understand their motivations. You empathize with their motivations. Not one person is exactly the good guy and the other one is the bad guy. They're both have shades of, I mean, the guy standing up for his brother.
Right.
And he's never going to let Sean Penn off the hook because he killed his brother. We get that. But likewise, you raped his girl. So like you can root for both of them or you can hate both of them. And when they ultimately have the fight, it looks so like rugged, but not over the top. So it kind of looks like that's maybe the way it would really go. It's not, like at one point, I guess you would say that Penn wins the fight, but how does he do it? He hits the guy in the face with his knee like 4 or 5 times in a row and knocks him out. Again, in today's society, it would be so much more dramatic.
Right.
This looked like 2 guys really fighting, is what I'm saying. I thought it was an excellent film. I was wrapped up into it for 2 hours.
Very good. Now, Sean Penn in Colors. You seen that one? The Robert Duvall, Sean Penn are both cops working in East LA, tough neighborhood. A couple of people in the chat room brought that up, and I think that was the movie he did following Bad Boys, or maybe just a couple of years later.
I think that one's from '88 because I saw it when it was relatively new when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then I watched it again in the early 2000s, but I haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah.
I have it on VHS. That's how old it is. Yeah. But no, after that, I was looking up his filmography the other day. He did a really good film with Nicolas Cage, which I also haven't watched in 30 years, 20 at least, called Racing with the Moon. And like 84. And I think Elizabeth Shue was in that as well. That was a good movie. Yeah, but there was a couple before he got to Colors. Like I said, I think that's 88.
Okay. All right. Let's you and I didn't know you were going to watch it, and so this is perfect that we're going to talk about it. HBO premiered a new series. It's a 7-part series. Episode 1 was last night, Sunday night. It stars Kate Winslet, famous, of course, for her role in Titanic, but she's made a lot of...
And my favorite movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
With the one with Jim Carrey. That's right. She is in that. She's the star of Mare of Easttown. And why don't you go ahead and set this up, and then I'll
for Bear fans, let me say this: Kate Winslet is British, right? So it's so funny. She's doing a Pennsylvania accent, and her O's. She sounds like Matt Nagy. Like if you listen, I'm telling you, like her accent has got to be from the same part of Pennsylvania Matt Nagy's from. Like she says, I'm trying to think of an example. Like it's not home, it's home. That's right. I don't know. It's like it's an exaggerated O. Like Matt Nagy doesn't say peanut, he says peanut. I don't know. There's little words like that Nagy says with his O's typically that just annoy me. He sounds really, really white, when he says his O's. And her accent, again, it's so on point because she's not even American. And she's worked really hard, obviously, to pick up that Pennsylvania dialect.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So, she's playing a former college basketball star, or high school basketball
That's
star.
Right.
You're talking women's basketball.
Right.
And from what we have a slow burn. We've only seen one episode. It's 1 hour long. And we have a slow burn of building up these characters. We see this one girl who's got a baby, and the kid is 1, and she really wants her baby daddy back. She's a young parent. She's like 20 years old. She wants the guy back, and the guy doesn't even really give a shit. Like she's telling him, hey, he needs a surgery for his ears or he could be deaf. And the guy's like, yeah, well, fuck that. I don't even have the money for the deductible. So we'll take our chances, which I did like the politics in that because there probably are a lot of people that would want to have that surgery and couldn't afford it, even if they wanted to, because of a deductible. But so he's got a new girl now, and he allows the new girl to constantly taunt his baby mama to the point where she beats her up and everything. I'm just like, what a piece of fucking shit.
Indeed.
Like, if I ever remarried, like, I would never condone the next woman beating up Marissa, as an example. Like, never. And we don't even have kids. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
But you have this slow burn of these characters, and Kate Winslet's an officer, but she's a star of a championship team in a small town. They won the championship 25 years before, so she's always been like a town celebrity because of that. And now she's a policewoman, so everybody knows her. And you see, like, she's kind of upset because her ex-husband is getting married again, and she doesn't want to admit it, that's bothering her. And she's drinking too much and all this kind of stuff. And eventually we got to the episode. One of the pivotal characters, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, is going to die. And it's kind of like Twin Peaks, how suddenly you see the beach and there's a dead body, which you can almost predict it when you're watching with where it's going to go. But I don't want to spoil it for you. But, you know, we haven't a good 30, 40 minutes of character building and scene setting.
Right.
And then you have a really good payoff at the end. I think it was phenomenal.
I totally agree. I saw it with my wife last night, and we were like, okay, this is must-see TV. And unfortunately, you can't binge it, and it feels like one of those shows that you'd want to binge as opposed to, you know, having to wait 7 weeks for it to conclude. But I was really super impressed with the character development. And a lot of times, you know, TV series that spend a lot of time in developing characters and providing all the shading of, you know, the Kate Winslet character, Mare, she is a cantankerous, bitchy cop, you know, and but it's time well spent getting to know her character and why she feels this way. She's under a lot of pressure because she has not solved a missing persons case for over a year. And the person,
and it was the girl she played basketball with,
her mother's the missing person her mother played with the Kate Winslet character.
Right. So she feels like, you know, like, why are you criticizing me to the media? But like that woman keeps saying, this isn't about you. This is about my missing daughter. So I thought that was a good dynamic. Winslet's character couldn't separate herself, you know, because she's the police officer. And again, having police officers that are friends, if you start, even if you go into George Floyd or something that they agree with was excessive, they'll ultimately get defensive and say, well, fuck it, man. Let's just defund the police and see what you do now, liberal pussies. So they can't handle criticism in most instances. And her character is true to that in the film. But like you said, it's building your understanding why she feels this way. But I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And, you know, already, so as this goes on, she's got two cases to solve. This missing person case and this murder that Dan said. And so clearly there's going to be some connection here. There's also a scene where she meets somebody at a bar and they end up having sex. And so I immediately thought, okay, he's got to be a suspect somewhere down the line. You know, he's having sex with the police officer who's in charge of the case. And so maybe he's trying to get some inside information.
Or he's going to be the ultimate good guy that helps her solve it later.
Exactly. And so what I'm hoping, because the person who is murdered, Dwayne is writing, Winslet had her boss getting another detective from an outside source. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, Evan Peters, who has become a star in American Horror Story, is going to be in probably the next episode working on the original case. I think that's what he's alluding to. Her boss was trying to get fresh eyes in on, because it's a cold case.
I get you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, gotcha, Dwayne. Thank you. So when you mentioned, you know, the murder, and we kind of all see that happening, that what's going to happen here, I thought to myself, boy, I hope this series is not going to be predictable. But by all indications from people who have there've been a number of critics who have received copies of the first 5 episodes so that they can review it. And I read one of the reviews, and this female critic said, totally unpredictable what's going to happen. Totally unpredictable. So
it's
I'm glad to hear
weird that Kate Winslet's playing a grandma. I mean, I know we're all getting older, but like, I don't think of Kate Winslet being old enough to be a grandma. I guess technically that's possible, but
yeah, sure.
it just doesn't feel that. I mean, like she's naked on the Titanic, right? I mean, like she's not that old, but I guess she is.
I've never really found her very attractive. Am I? Do you disagree with me?
I loved her in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like her character is constantly dyeing her hair and doing different things with her hair. It's very quirky, very. Her name's Clementine in the film.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
and she's just. I think she's incredible on that. Like I would want to date that character.
Mm-hmm.
I like that character, so I thought she was beautiful in that role. Like. I like in this new series that she doesn't have any makeup or anything on that we've seen yet.
Yeah, right.
Because again, she is playing a police officer,
right.
So we see her with like bone dry, no makeup, unless they're putting something, to stop reflections or something.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, she's not dressed up or dolled up. She's just the way she would look like if she woke up. I like, again, it's gritty,
Yep. Tony Solomonsky is asking the question, when will Avatar 2 come out, or is that going to be a decade-old myth? And actually, the release date was released recently. It's coming out December 22nd in 2022. So we've got 18 months or so before the James Cameron updated or sequel to Avatar is coming out. Were you?
I never watched Avatar.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of it. It was okay. It was okay, but it's one of those films where you think that the filmmaker is much more in love with the effects than the story. And in fact, the story received a lot of criticism from critics because it was basically a ripoff of Pocahontas. It's Pocahontas set in this fantasy world with lots of CGI and stuff. And the CGI stuff, I saw it in what's the not 70 millimeter, but the high definition movie theater. Boy, I haven't been to a movie theater in so long. I forget. IMAX.
You mean like IMAX?
Yeah, IMAX. Thank you, Tony. He beat you to it. And it looked fabulous. I mean, it was breathtaking. And for that reason alone, you should watch Avatar to watch in IMAX, because it was shot for IMAX. It was shot in the proper format for IMAX. I mean, James Cameron is a stickler for all the technical aspects of it. It's for that reason alone. But the story was just kind of okay,
You mentioned December 22nd. The fourth Matrix film has been pushed back to that as well. But it's still supposed to come out in the theater, so I'm definitely going to go for that. I love the first one, and I hated the second one and the third one, but even Keanu said he didn't like them. So for years, he was trying to get away.
Really?
Like in his own words, he wanted to come back. Like they filmed the second one and third one together.
Right.
At the same time, circa 01 or whatever, and he was unhappy with it for years, was trying to come up with a way to, in his own head, to rectify it. So if Keanu is even that passionate about wanting to make another great film, then I think it's going to be good, and then you got the Sopranos prequel. Hopefully it will be in the theater. It's been pushed back to September 24th now. That's called The Many Saints of Newark.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini's son in real life, plays the young Tony Soprano.
I heard that. Yeah.
So yeah, that I hope that both of these films I actually get to watch in the theater. I guess where I'm old, but I grew up with movies in that environment, and it always added to it. Likewise, if it was a bad sequel or something you saw at the theater, it just made it that much more monumentally disappointing. But if you see a great film in the theater, it always just adds to the ambiance, adds to the experience.
Totally agree with you. One of the things that I like to do when I'm in the theater is to see the reaction of the audience around me. And that comes from the fact that when I was at Roberto Clemente High School, I was in a filmmaking course, and my teacher at the time, he was an old film guy. I mean, this guy worked in the film industry as a publicist, as did some script writing, worked in the projection room at movie theaters throughout. He told me one of the keys to to having a successful life is to have as many W-2 forms show up at the end of the year. That shows that you've got a lot of different jobs and you're never going to be poor. And I remember hanging out with him at the projection booth at the Vic Theater, which is now a world famous concert hall, although I'm sure they haven't had a concert there in a while, but a lot of alternative music bands performed there. But prior to that, they would show Pakistani movies. And a quick story about that. So he and I was a student at Clemente High School, and we were doing some script writing for a student film that I was working on. And so I went, he invited me over to the projection booth. And so he puts up a reel and one projector. Back in the old days, it was basically two projectors. And then up in the upper right-hand corner, you see a Q dot, which was the projectionist's cue to go from one projector to the other projector, because film reels back then could only hold 20 minutes worth of film. And so every 20 minutes, you'd have to go from one reel to the other. And so we're talking about this film idea that we're working on. And all of a sudden, he stops talking and his eyes get really fucking wide open. And he goes, "Fuck, I put the wrong reel on." So what happened is that it was going from reel 2 to reel 3, but he didn't put reel 3 in the new projector, and the other projector, he put reel 4. So he totally re-edited the movie. And so he quickly takes down the reel that he set up in one projector, puts the reel up, and then coming up the stairs, we hear the Pakistani movie theater owner saying, "You got the wrong reel." I can't do a Pakistani accent. "You got the wrong reel up. You got the wrong reel up." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. And so he's looking for a scene to cut back to the original order of the film. And so he does, and everything is fine, and we sit back down, and I say to him, "Well, they always say that the director has the final cut, but no, actually the projectionist does." And he started cracking up. So it's a great story. I'm not sure why I brought that whole thing up.
No, I appreciate how long did the other reel play, you think?
It probably played about 3 to 4 minutes. And so at the
end,
he
get fired?
No, he did not. Well,
wow.
Back then, the projectionist union in Chicago was you didn't fuck around with these guys.
Yeah, but that's something that would seem even the union would be like, "Come on, you got to pay attention."
Well, it was a matinee in a small theater, and so I don't think anybody made a big deal out of it. But I did go down into the lobby after the theater. I said, "I'm going to go down in the lobby to see if there's any reaction to the fact that something seemed to be strange going on." Well, I couldn't understand what people were saying because, again, it was a Pakistani movie, but it didn't seem like anybody was upset. They were all buying popcorn, ready for the second feature and stuff. So it was one of my all-time favorite stories. John C. West, he was the teacher at Roberto Clemente High School. Oh, I remember why. One of the things he taught me about movie making is to take a look at the reaction of the audience. How, are they smiling during scenes that they should be smiling? Are they laughing at scenes that they shouldn't be laughing at, and so forth? And so I've always had that thing when I go to a movie theater. I love going to movie theaters and watching movies with an audience. I always take a second, a glance as to the people around me and how they're reacting to certain scenes. It's just in me.
There's a couple of things I wanted to say quickly. One, I wanted to backtrack off topic and then come back to topic.
Sure.
We mentioned Scotty Pippen earlier. I think his son died, and I meant to tell you about that earlier. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
Yeah,
wow.
Don't know the circumstances, but his son is like 33 that didn't make it. I don't know if he was murdered or he passed on, but you can look that up. But the film that I was at that sticks out in my head with the crowd. Did you see Inglourious Bastards?
Oh, yeah. Great movie. Quentin Tarantino.
At the end of it where Brad Pitt is carving the swastika. And, God, what's his name? He won Best Supporting Actor for that film and Django Unchained.
He's such
Christoph Waltz.
Oh, good. Yes. Well, what a great actor.
He's carving the swastika in Christoph Waltz's head. And I'm telling you, probably 20 people stood up and started clapping. As the movie went off. And I thought, we were watching the matinee, like noon showing. It was the first showing of the film, period. And I was so excited. I went to the first one, and yet, only a third of the theater's in there. It's a Friday at 12 noon, and but like 20 people stood up and were clapping. So that was like, you can't get that at home.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. You cannot get that at home. You cannot, I can tell you so many stories just about audience reaction that, just moved me. And it's been great. I really, really miss it. And I miss the old Palace movie theaters. Now we got these, well, they've actually made some improvements to movie theaters in the last few years because they know they have to in order to compete with the big screens people have at homes. And so they've got the reclining chairs and so forth. But back in the day, the movie Palace theaters that held 2,000, 3,000 people, the Chicago theater, famous, across the street was the State Lake Theater. Down the street was the Roosevelt Theater. In Chicago, we had all these fabulous movie theaters. And now, with the beautiful marquees and the ornate lobbies and so forth, all that stuff is gone. And it really makes me sad. By the way, Scottie Pippen's son, I've got a photograph of him up on the screen. Antron dies at the age of 33. Pippen released a statement saying, I'm heartbroken to share that yesterday I said goodbye to my firstborn son. The two of us shared a love for basketball, and we had countless conversations about the game. So sorry to hear the bad news, Scotty. God bless his soul, and hopefully those memories that you have of him will get you through this tough time.
I remember my mom saying, because my oldest sister died, in 2016. And it's a cliche, but it's so true for the parent that loses their kid. Like, no parent should bury their own daughter or their own son, So I feel for Scotty because, again, I lost my own sister, so I cared about it from that aspect.
Right.
But just the amount of grief that my mom burying her first, born child, it just didn't feel right. It felt like, I'm sure Scotty feels the same way. It just feels like you got cheated, just like it's not the way it's supposed to go.
Hugh says that his son had an asthma issue. So that is so sad. That's one of the things that I did when I worked at Channel 2. I did a half-hour special on asthma. And boy, I who knew that? I mean, that is a really dangerous illness. It, and just the idea that you can't breathe.
This is so not to add to what you were just saying, but it worked out well. So it's an infamous story with one of my friends I went to school with and college with. So he's a grown man and he's a dad now, so he made it. But we were in like gym in like 4th grade, and he had asthma when he was younger. And somehow some people can like grow out of it or something, which sounds like insane. It sounds like something Trump would say. Well, you can drink that bleach and you'll grow out of your asthma. But like as he got older, he didn't suffer from it anymore. But he had an asthma attack while we were in the bathroom. I was in there, and like he was like his dick was out because he was at the urinal, and he starts to have an asthma attack, and our teacher was a woman. So it was so funny. Like the woman teacher had to come in and try to help him. The whole time his fucking cock is out. So, so I always thought like, hey, Miss Delgren, I saw your fucking dick, man. And he's just looking at me like, I'm thankful to be alive. And that's what you're thinking of. I was like, she saw your dick. And when you're in the 4th grade, nobody is really packing any heat.
That's right.
So,
Dwayne Corey has an interesting question here. I just don't know what he's talking about. He says, have you guys heard of cargo cults? The late Prince Philip was the feature of one in one of the Pacific Islands, and he actually enjoyed it. Do you know what he's talking about? Cargo cults?
Is that tied into January 6th? I'm kidding. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe he can enlighten us on that. Hey, before you get off the topic of movies, I had one more that I had never seen and wanted your thoughts on.
Cool.
I'm sure you've seen it, and once more, I watched it on TCM. So, Jack Nicholson, who I'm a big fan of, and most people are, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It was called 5 Easy Pieces.
Yes.
Do you remember that well enough to talk about it or no?
I don't actually. I'm trying to remember who the director. Bob Raffleson, I want to say, was the director. Is that the one also with Peter Fonda, the motorcycle guys?
No, that's Easy Rider.
Right, 5 Easy Pieces. No, I don't. I remember seeing it probably in the mid 70s or something like that, but I can't remember it well.
The lady that was in Easy Rider is in it too, named Karen Black.
Okay.
She's a real good looking woman, you know,
sure.
was. She's passed on since. But, well, you haven't seen it or haven't seen it enough to remember it. Haven't seen it recently enough. But it was the first film where he carried it because he was the nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Easy Rider. But this was his first film after that, and he's nominated for Best Actor. He doesn't win ultimately. I think until One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest until 75. This was from 70. So he gets, critically acclaimed on his performance. But the film, he kept talking about how he represented like a zeitgeist of that time and conflicted youth and that kind of shit. But to me, like his character at the end reminds me of somebody that I wouldn't like today. Like, he was somebody that was so wealthy that he didn't care about his possessions or anything. So, but if you really dive into that, it's because he always has money to fall back on. So you can just get out of your car and leave it to some horde that you don't even respect or like, and just jump in a rig with somebody and go across country because A, you don't have to work, or B, you can rebuy your wardrobe. It doesn't matter to you. And shit like that. I've always been envious of kids that always had an unlimited amount of cash because of their parents. So to me, he was the example of the spoiled fucking rich kid. To me, I didn't see his character, although I liked him throughout the film. I was reading reviews about it. The reason he was so praised for it was his character was, people were saying, represented that time period and their conflicted views of the world.
Right.
But to me, you can't do that shit if you grew up poor like I did. You got to hold on to all your fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care who the woman is. If she's annoying, we'll break up. But I still got all my stuff. Nobody's getting all my clothes, all my records, all this kind of stuff. Not that I have records. But in 1970, everything's on LP.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying, though. But his character kind of can just throw it all away because it doesn't matter to him. So anyway, if you hadn't seen the movie, though, it's pointless to.
I'm going to try to check it out because I did see that. I think it's on the on-demand portion of TCM, so I'll try to take a look at it this week, and we can talk further about it next week. By the way, I got 2 other things here from people in the chat. What should I pick first? Dwayne responded to the question: a cargo cult. The wrong one. A cargo cult is where a lesser technology state meets a higher tech state, and they worship that person, place, or thing. An island tribe met Prince Philip in World War II, their first encounter with another culture, so he was until death worshipped as a living god. Now, that's pretty cool. I'm going to have to do some research on that because I have always dreamed of being worshipped by another culture.
That makes me feel bad for the people. It actually makes me think of an old horror film that I watched from 1980 called Cannibal Holocaust. Have you seen that?
No. That's a great title.
It's the first, the movie, horror movies in the middle 2000s, from like 2000 on, because of like Blair Witch, it became a thing where they would do found footage, and it was like a cheap way to do a low budget film. But they did this in 1980 with this found footage thing, but it has this deep moral message in it. Long story short, this group of like scientists, or they're like National Geographic kind of guys. You know what I mean? They're studying other cultures and stuff. So this other group of people went to view from their company or whatever, their university, whatever it was. I haven't watched it in years, but wherever they go, they didn't come back. So they send the second group to go figure out what the fuck happened. And long story short, the second group finds the camera footage from the first group.
Mm-hmm.
And so they filmed all their atrocities. So they go to this poor village. And of course they're doing the things that like we did in Vietnam. And my dad was in Vietnam, so nobody gets salty about it. You know, my dad was airborne, was in the Army. But, you know, I'm not saying my dad or your dad, but somebody's dad burned down villages and shit in Vietnam. That happened.
Sure.
So they were doing that to this tribe, and they raped one of the women, were filming it. Even the woman was like a part of it, like was like kind of cheering it on. And they had such a lack of respect for their culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end, one by one, these fuckers who are cannibals, they start going after the white people and killing them and eating them. But before they do, the controversial thing is they gang fuck the white woman. They like 20 of them fuck her, and then they behead her. But so you have all this shocking scene with her being like fucked to death. But anyway, long story short, at the end of the film, the white guy from the second team says the profound thing, you know, which is what the point of the film was. This isn't a quote, but it was like, you know, the first team went in there and they just kept thinking they were dealing with savages. And the irony is we were the savages, not them. Everything they did was in some sort of retaliation for what we did as a culture. We went into there thinking we were superior and we could fuck their women. We can just do anything we wanted to them, burn their villages down. And we were the savages, not them. Everything they did was a response because there was a provocation to violence because of what we had done.
Right.
So, yeah, but it's really like the director had to appear like he was arrested. Like they thought he had a snuff film.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, but he didn't. It was all like he produced the actors because they thought, again, this is 1980. So they thought that he had a snuff film and that this woman was really beheaded and fucked to death and all this shit. And they were all actors.
This was like the Serbian film before the Serbian film.
The Serbian film is it's like a Cannibal Holocaust on like Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa's steroids, if you will. And I support the steroid baseball players. Let me just say that again. Like, if you're going to have a Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds was an MVP in baseball as a skinny little guy way before he was the big-headed fucker who was hitting home runs in San Francisco. He was great. Roger Clemens was the best pitcher of his generation.
Yeah, although his career, before he started taking steroids, his career was going downhill. The steroids kept him around for
the steroids kept him healthy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I won't argue with it. He deserves it.
But again, Clemens beat those allegations, as we know.
I don't know about that.
In a criminal sense, he beat them.
Yes, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they tried to go after him for perjury and stuff, and they couldn't convict him. So,
yeah.
I think Clemens deserves in the Hall of Fame. I think Bonds does, McGuire does, and certainly Pete Rose does. I think Pete's kid just died yesterday too. When you're talking about people who lost their children. Oh my
goodness, jeez. Things happen in threes. So
and the vice president, Walter Mondale, died today.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Former candidate as well. He had the first female on the ticket.
That's right.
In '84. What was her name? Geraldine Ferraro.
That's her.
I think she's passed on too.
She recently passed away. That's correct.
Yeah, so he was the first guy to lead a ticket to have a female on it.
Tony Solomonsky has a good question before we get off the topic of movies entirely. He asks, what was the last, because we were talking about movie theaters, what was the last horror film you enjoyed in a theater? And I got to tell you, I've had some great experiences with horror films in theaters, just again, seeing the audience reaction and so forth. One of them was the Ving Rhames version of Dawn of the Dead.
I saw that in the theater too. That was really good.
Yeah, because I think that was the first of the zombie movies where the zombies weren't walking around like they were old people. These zombies were like running at the speed of light after people, and that was terrifying to experience a zombie movie with this kind of superpower that the dead people had, and
the cool thing I got from that at the theater was because there were so many, big speakers, you could hear faintly in the background the song. Because at one point you think that they've gotten on a boat and they made it.
Yeah, right.
And I could hear faintly in the theater. I know I wouldn't have been able to hear this at home. And I have, a little surround sound set up for myself. But still, I could hear faintly. I was like, that sounds like Disturbed in the background. They're playing the song Down with the Sickness, which obviously fit that so incredibly poignantly.
Sure, yeah.
And it just is fading in the background because, again, I can hear it with the great speakers that theater would have. And then it kicks in Down with the Sickness, and you see that all of them died on that fucking boat. Everybody died at the end of that movie. Yeah, but I thought that was great. But the last horror movie that I saw at the theater, and it was fucking great, was the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep.
Oh, really? You saw that in the movie theater, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't wait. I love The Shining so much. I saw within a couple of days of them, they came out like a week apart. The Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Dr. Sleep. And those are two of my favorite movie experiences ever.
So I have not seen that movie, but I read some reviews and it seems like it's worth checking out. So
which one?
The sequel, the one you just saw.
Oh, okay. Well, if you watch it, let me tell you this without ruining it. There is an incredible, the movie, if you watch the rated R version, the one I saw at the theater, it's like 2 hours and 30 minutes. You're getting a full film. Like I said, it's like The Shining Part 2 for a reason. But there is a director's cut if you're willing to put in the time that's 3 hours long. And I cannot for the life, I'm not going to give you the spoiler. I cannot for the life of me tell you why they cut one of the scenes that they did. It amplifies the film even more. So if you can watch, I bought the Blu-ray that came with the director's cut and the R cut. But I know it was on HBO Max. I don't know if it still is. But I strongly recommend the director's cut. I could tell you why, but I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna.
I mean, even if I didn't tell you what the scene was, it's a great surprise that I don't want to ruin for you. Is what I'm saying. Without, all I can tell you is this. Just to make you want to watch this film. It starts in 1980, just like The Shining, or I guess they probably filmed it in 78 or 79, but the film, dropped in 80. So at the beginning of this one, it's still 1980. The only fallback that I have for it, and I would imagine it's for rights, royalties. They have a woman that looks like Shelley Duvall playing Shelley Duvall. They have a guy that looks like Nicholson. The flashbacks, instead of showing you The Shining, they kind of like little Danny on the thing, on the little bike thing. It's really well done. They look like them, but any flashbacks they refilmed. Now, on its face, that might sound bad, but trust me, they pulled it off. And it's its own entity. This movie it's like 2018 or 19 in the film, too. This is all through the eyes of Danny.
Right.
And Danny's a grown man in it, and it is so fucking good. And I love The Shining, so if it would have sucked, I held it probably to a higher standard than most. You know what I'm saying? Because I cared so much about The Shining that I would have been easily disappointed by this movie. It stands on its own. It really does. If this is so good, it could be its own film.
Well, lots of people agree with you in the chat, and Retro TV and Movies says that Dan wants to tell the story so badly.
I do want to give you one of the spoilers, but it might make you want to watch it more. It's up to you if you want me to tell you.
Go ahead and tell me, because I'm one of those people that I can still enjoy a movie even though I know what's coming up. So please go ahead.
Do you remember The Shining well?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, back in The Shining when Jack is at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I say Jack is Nicholson playing Jack Torrance as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the bar and he's like, "I give my fucking soul for a drink," and then suddenly there's Lloyd the bartender.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs into this guy named Grady, and he's like, "Grady, weren't you the caretaker here once before?" "Oh no, not me, sir." But he was the guy that cut up the little girls, the little twin girls.
That's right.
Well, they're back at the Overlook.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the film, the last 30 minutes or so are at the Overlook, which is so good. They play the same song from The Shining when they're going,
Cool.
The film starts with the same song and ends with the same song as The Shining, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But he's in the hotel, and who's the bartender? But his dad.
Oh,
it's Jack.
Wow.
Now, in the film, in the rated R version, they cut this conversation significantly to the point where Jack never acknowledges that he knows that Danny's his son.
Mm-hmm.
And the director's cut, much like it's the same thing. Like they go to the bathroom because remember, again, Grady spilled some shit on Nicholson's coat and he's wiping him off in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "That's going to stain." And he finally admits that I am not just the guy here. I did kill my daughters. And, he cuts the shit.
Right.
Well, there's a scene in the director's cut where Jack finally cuts through the shit and admits to Danny he knows who he is and that he is his dad.
Mm.
And I don't know why they would have cut that out.
Yeah.
It pisses me off now that I know that it's there, that wasn't in there to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's phenomenal. And like I said, in the flashbacks, they don't, like I said, they don't have Shelley Duvall or the original kid that played Danny Lloyd that played Danny or Jack Nicholson. But the flashbacks are all really well done. And the guy that's playing Nicholson kind of looks like him. The girl that plays Duvall looks like her, but probably better looking, I guess, maybe too good looking in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Shelley Duvall was ugly, but her character was toned really down in that film,
Yeah.
It was made purposely to look plain, that was the character.
Right.
But it's so well done. And like I said, the movie, I could tell, I don't want to give any more spoiler, but at one point, the film actually kind of made me cry at one point too. So you got the drama, you got the horror, you got so many connections to The Shining, and just the scene with his dad, man, it's just fucking great. It's like, did you see, I don't know, were you ever into any of the Rocky films at all?
Oh yeah, it's funny that you say that because an hour and a half ago, Ravi was talking about all of the Rocky films and giving a review of them in the chat room.
Well, as a kid, and I watch it as an adult. Again, it pisses me off now because why would Stallone try to pull this shit off on? If he goes to Russia, they're not going to turn on Drago and start cheering for the American. That's not going to fucking happen, especially when the Cold War is still going on.
Right.
That is propaganda to the level of the Germans, for fuck's sake. But as a kid, I really liked Rocky IV. As a grown man, it pisses me off when I watch it. But just because of that, it's so fucking fake. If you're going to beat Drago, fine, but don't have the country turn on him. That's not real.
Totally
but
agree.
But okay, in Creed 2, they bring Dolph Lundgren's character back. And there's a scene, man. There's a fucking scene where Stallone and Drago are together in a restaurant because Rocky's character, as he's gotten older, owns a restaurant in these films in Philly. That's what he does for his income. And obviously he helps train Apollo's kid. But he and Drago, they have a conversation. And I wanted so badly for Drago to have some growth, some substance. because the events of Rocky IV are 1985, and it's like 2015 when this film came out, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
He's had 30 years to grow. I just wanted him to look at Stallone and say, I'm sorry about Apollo. I was young, just something to acknowledge. Because we watch boxing documentaries all the time where people feel bad about shit that they've done.
Yeah.
We mentioned that 2 weeks ago, Assault in the Ring.
Yep. Great movie.
Where people get older, even with all the hurt feelings that Ali and Joe Frazier had,
mm-hmm.
Still, like, Frazier's doing all the talking in that documentary because Ali, can't really speak at that point anymore. But still, even all the hurt that Joe had, like, he's saying all the mean stuff I've said to Muhammad in response, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So you have growth there. And the reason I bring this up to compare the two scenes is he didn't do that. It's like he still has his own hostility against Stallone, I guess because he lost and the crowd turned on him, which again is bullshit. But okay. So he has this resentment and no regrets or whatever. And the scene is a throwaway. It's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Why even do it if you're not going to have some like what worked so much in Rocky III was that, Apollo and Rocky II is being taunted by, his kids are being mocked in school, that it's a fixed fight. That's why he's so desperate to get Stallone back in the ring to save face. And he's hurt so badly by the fact that they had the draw and then he loses. But what happens? He and Stallone become friends. They're united because Mr. T's such a fucking douche, So Apollo and Rocky become friends. So I wanted that same kind of growth, not necessarily the Drago and he become buddies,
right?
But I just wanted that one semblance of a conversation and wanted some catharsis from it. And it doesn't provide that. On the flip side, you kind of get that in The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't, or in Dr. Sleep, you don't really get that in the rated R version. I'm like, God, that was such a blown opportunity. But in the director's cut, you do, because he does acknowledge that he's his son. And, he's his dad. He knows it. He's cognizant of it. And you got what I wanted from the Drago conversation. That acknowledgement, that am I making any sense?
Total sense. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I know I'm rambling, but I just felt like that was such a blown opportunity in Creed 2. I don't even know. They're doing a third one now without Stallone, which is fine. But why?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
I saw that he had a headline on Google, Stallone confirms he's not in Creed 3. Ooh. So I don't know why, but he's not doing it. But I don't know. I guess
he owns the franchise, though, right? So he probably has sold off on it or something.
Michael B. Jordan can probably pull this off without him.
Yeah,
but they should at least killed him or something.
Well.
Rocky dies. He's old. Like, do something. Like Mick died. Burgess Meredith died.
He's played around with that idea, and he has said that he wants to kill the character off. But I bet that he's probably thinking, well, maybe now is not the time to kill him off.
I mentioned Rocky IV, not to change the subject,
mm-hmm.
but Stallone is really has talked about this a couple of different times online on Twitter and such. He has the director's cut of Rocky IV. He got I don't know why. I don't know what he was so upset about with the original film,
mm-hmm.
but he got access to the original prints or whatever, kind of like how the Godfather 3,
mm-hmm.
where he's totally reworked the film, and he's sitting on a director's cut that he's supposed to going to release sometime in the fall. At the time it was supposed to be the 35th anniversary, but now it'll be 36th. I guess it didn't come out because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been sitting on it, but he's talked about how excited he is for people to see what he said was his vision for Rocky IV. So I hope that means the crowd doesn't turn on Drago, but I doubt
it. Yeah, I remember watching it in the theater thinking, yeah, that's not right.
That is such bullshit. Like, that wouldn't happen here. Like, again, at the time, like, we're viewed as equal superpowers.
Yeah.
Even if they're starting to, to lose the arms race. But right. I'm saying, They're a proud people. They lost 27 million people in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And they were our buddies, you know? And so what I'm saying is they survived the Nazis too. And they're not going to just roll over and embrace the American capitalist fighter. Why would they do that? They wouldn't.
Well,
the same way we wouldn't if the fucking commie, godless Russian guy came in and kicked our capitalist fighter's ass.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here, because at that time, a lot of people in the Soviet Union were kind of getting fed up with communism. And once Gorbachev introduced what's the word, Petroskovia or whatever, where they started to open up the borders a little bit, and people in the Soviet Union got to see how Americans were living. All of a sudden, they started to become really envious. I mean, blue jeans, a lot of people who study that era say that blue jeans was a big part of why the Soviet Union disintegrated, because people in the Soviet Union were looking at blue jeans and we want some, and they were getting them in the black market, but they weren't getting enough to satisfy the want that people had. McDonald's, people were seeing commercials and all of the stuff about McDonald's, and there were other European countries were opening up McDonald's, and the Soviets were becoming envious of capitalism, particularly because they just didn't have things. You know, they had to wait in line to get vodka and stuff like that. So perhaps it's possible that they could have turned on Drago just simply because they were in love with the American fighter. It's possible.
To me, that I can't say that you're wrong, because it's just an opinion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's a nationalism issue, and you know, I don't mean that in like a white nationalist kind of way. No. I mean it in an Olympics kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have this epic fight in your home country, when typically everyone fights in America, stands like Ali, who was fighting everywhere, you know, but most big boxing bouts are going to be here in, like, you know, in Vegas or the Garden, or at the time Trump Plaza in New Jersey, you know what I mean? But big time pay-per-view-esque fights were in America for the most part, except for the Ali era, when he's going to Zaire, and you know the story, or the Philippines, but the fact they get the fight and their guy is fighting the American, and there's no way. Everyone goes home unhappy when Rocky wins, in my opinion. There's just no way. Yeah. And it's not like Drago lost in the last round. It's not like he fucking got knocked out in the second round and was a national disappointment, but that's the way it's presented in the film. And if you've seen Creed 2, they say that Drago, like, basically left the country, became a drunk or a fucking scumbag, and until, like, he started training his son to fight, but he was living in exile. Like, why do you have to do? That's another problem I have, is like, Apollo had 2 kids in Rocky 2. We see them. And yet when Creed comes out, it's not his kid, it's his illegitimate kid. Even in death, Stallone has to be better than Apollo. Apollo had to have the affair and cheat. Like, why can't you just train Apollo's fucking kid? My dad trained you to beat Clubber Lang. Train me to beat this guy.
You need conflict in movies, and that's where they found it, I guess.
Yeah, but Stallone always has to make himself,
of course,
like above the fray, above everybody else. Like, Drago's character is exiled. Rocky's the hero.
Well,
Apollo's the guy who's cheating on his wife and shit, you know?
He did lose the first fight against Apollo Creed, so he's not quite always putting himself over the top. By the way, Stephen Mee says, can you believe they chose Rocky as Best Picture in 1977 over Taxi Driver, All the President's Men, and Network? Have you seen those other movies? I mean, clearly you've seen.
I've seen them all except Network, although Network is on my DVR right now. It came on Turner Classic.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Listen, Network is one of the best scripted movies of all time. Patty Chayefsky wrote that script, and I can tell you, when that movie came out, I want to say in what year was that again? 1977?
76.
Remember the teacher that I told you? He was a projectionist.
Yeah.
He projected that movie, and he did an audio recording of the movie. And so he says to me, go see the movie, and then I'd like you to listen to the audio recording because the writing is so good. You might get you might enjoy listening to just the soundtrack without looking at the visuals. And so I did. I saw the movie. I loved it, and he recorded it on a reel-to-reel player. So I borrowed one of the school's reel-to-reel players and took it home and listened to it. And I swear to God, over the weekend, I must have listened to that movie 10 times, to the point where I can say dialogue. You have meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. You think you have merely spoiled the business deal? That is not the case. The Arabs have put billions of dollars into this country, and now they must take it back. It is ebb and flow, tidal gravity. It is ecological balance. You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There is no third world. There is no West. There is only one ecumenical system of money. Petrodollars, electrodollars, US dollars, and on and on. I could recite the entire fucking movie.
I definitely don't want to watch it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I do want to watch it.
It's just beautifully, beautifully written. And I saw it recently, probably 2-3 years ago, and it still holds up, despite the fact that it's dated, in terms of the television cameras and what people are wearing and so forth. Tony Salamanski says, holy shit, I need to watch this. Yeah, check it out, Tony, and let me know what you think about it. I think you'll dig it. Great film. I hope you see it soon, Dan. Maybe we can talk about it next week.
I plan on watching it soon. Like I said, it's on there, and I want to watch the original Kubrick Lolita. I've got that on there. Mm-hmm. And obviously I need to watch Brian's song as well at some point. So
indeed.
Yeah, they're all on my to-do list. To answer his question though, again, I know everyone loves Taxi Driver. I love De Niro, love Scorsese. Mm-hmm. I thought Taxi Driver was okay. I thought it was okay. Saying like okay. It was okay.
What are you talking about? It's a great film. What are you talking about?
It's anticlimactic to me. You build it up, and then what happens? I don't know, nothing. It just feels like it's flat to me at the end. But I love All the President's Men.
Great movie.
I think it's a great film.
We'll talk about anticlimactic. You know how that movie's going to end. So what's the difference? They get the bad guy, President Nixon.
My argument is I see why Rocky Part 1 was the winner is what I'm saying.
Okay.
No, I didn't see Network, but I do like Rocky 1 Part 1 because it crosses so many. It's not just for males. It's not a boxing film. It's also a love story. It's the underdog story. It's all these things. An unknown fighter getting his shot, the unknown actor getting his shot to do the film. All these things culminate in the film. I can see why people would want to anoint this picture. I get it. I agree. I think the first one is great. And I think all those sequels have really hurt how good the first one was. Same thing, we're talking about horror movies. The first 2 Halloween movies, if there were no more and just the first 2 are the same night.
Yeah.
I think if you just said, boy, what a great 2 movies there, but all those sequels, all those bad sequels, you start to hurt the whole franchise.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately.
I think Rocky has done that, man. And like they should have stopped Rocky after 3. And I enjoy all the other ones in their own way. But the first one was great. Second one was great, but you could stop it there. But the third one is even cool because you have Rocky like losing the eye of the tiger, becoming complacent, becoming everything that Apollo was in the first one. Just the champion who's overlooking his opponent. So I like that aspect, the irony and stuff. So the third one, again, isn't my favorite film, but I thought it served a purpose. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot realistic for the fighters. Because at some point, usually the fighter gets beaten. Mm-hmm. even Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas.
That's right.
And they have a bad night. And what are you going to do about it? And how do you, especially when Stallone's character has to admit that he's afraid, and he's never been afraid before. So I thought that in those aspects, that was really realistic at the time. And to make Mr. T a star, made Hulk Hogan a star. I mean, film, but it jumps the shark on part 4.
Stephen Me says maybe in the movie where the Soviets turn on Drago is maybe they knew that Dolph Lundgren was really Swedish and not Russian.
Well, Hitler wasn't really German. I don't know if this popped to my head, but wasn't he Austrian?
Yes,
but,
he was Austrian. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know why that. I'm just saying. But the Germans are all behind Germany, but this guy's not even fucking German.
That's right. All right, I want to talk a little bit about these football uniforms that have come out. Cincinnati Bengals now are geting a lot of praise for the
Am I
redesign.
blind? Let me just say this right off the top. I mentioned this on my FM radio show tonight when I was talking about it. The Bengals changed their uniforms, and I don't fucking see a difference. I mean, I barely see a difference. I'm like, this looks like the same uniform they've had since Boomer Esiason.
It really does. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of changes on the stripes or on the shoulder pads. It doesn't seem. It seems like they've toned it down a little bit, which works for me. I've never been a big fan of the Bengals uniforms.
No,
but I think it does look better. But yeah, there's not a lot of changes there. That's for sure.
To me, it looks like there's one stripe on the sleeve that was there when Esiason was there.
Yeah,
that wasn't there. Like the Bengal stuff was lower on the sleeve, like during the Marvin Lewis era, let's say.
Right.
And now they've gone back to that stripe a little bit above it. So it looks like the uniform from the late 80s with the pants from the 2000s. It looks like the pants from 2005 combined with the Esiason's old jersey. It's so fucking pointless. Their uniform, it's like they had, I'm trying to think of they had a gigantic beard before and they just trimmed it. They still have a beard. It's the same.
That is funny.
It's the same. I mean, it's not like the Chargers, like in that countdown I think you're referencing, the one I sent to you. The Chargers went back to their uniforms of the early 70s, and like the early Fouts years, like with the yellow pants and stuff, and they had been wearing as an alternate the powder blue one from the 60s, but they made that their primary. And, again, last season, like that's really changing. That's going to a different color scheme and things. And I get why people love that. I still think, personally, I'm getting ahead, but I still think the Raiders have the best uniforms. And I think the Bears are way better than 12th, too. That kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, the Bears are 12? Get the fuck out. Seattle?
Dan is referring to a USA Today article that listed this author, what's his name? Nate Davis. He put together his own power rankings of NFL uniforms. He's got the Chargers at number 1. He writes, last year's refresh couldn't have gone much better, though as a child who grew up in the 80s, I remain partial to both their Midnight Lightning and Royal Blue alternate options, but nothing beats their helmet bolts, whether they're navy or sunshine gold. Then he's got the Raiders, the pirate logo, of course, is iconic. Then he's got the Steelers, number 3. He's got the Saints, number 4.
I got to jump in on the Saints.
Please.
The Saints make me want to fight somebody. Okay, so the New Orleans Saints, I assume most football teams it's fair to say, are billion-dollar corporations at this time, right? I mean, the Saints have been successful, but even the least successful team is, close to $1 billion, right? On their value, if they were going to sell it. Right. Okay. Then get your colors in sync. Like the gold on their fucking helmet is a different shade of gold than their numbers, and their pants is a third different color gold. Like you're a $1 billion industry. You can't get your uniform lined up to where the shades of gold don't match. You can't make them all match. That's a junior high. That's a middle school, because they're getting money from like donations, and this is the best they could do. You're the fucking New Orleans Saints. If you can't get the same pattern, color, and you're a professional football team, that's a disgrace to your uniform. They deserve to be 30th, 31st, just because their gold doesn't match.
Yeah, I'm with you. JMNA 9357 says the Saints uniforms suck. I would agree with that. I can't believe he's got them at, Nate Davis has them at number 4. And then I can't believe this one either.
Yeah,
number
Seattle,
5, Seattle Seahawks.
With all that neon green and shit. Like, what? Yeah.
That is just pathetic. I mean, geez, what's going on? Number 6, the Colts. Now, the Colts, there is a certain, I have a certain appreciation for them because they're basically pretty much.
They're basically Penn State in the NFL.
But I've always liked the Colt logo, and it's a basic, simple jersey. I like their jerseys. Top 10, perhaps. He's got them at number 6. He's got the Cowboys at 7, and he writes iconic, simple, beloved, American even. Get out of here, dude. Who is this Nate Davis? We need to bring him on here. Then he's got the Vikings ahead of the Bears. That's on.
Bullshit. The Vikings, their best uniform is still the one when Fran was there, and that's the one that was their best one.
Yes.
And they've changed uniforms like 5 times in the last 20 years. Like, let's at least the Bears have that. At least, we've had a couple of different alternate jerseys, the orange one and stuff, but primarily, at least we've got some tradition. The Vikings have no tradition except for that first uniform that was around for almost 30 years.
Right.
And that's their best one, and they just fucking have foregone that. Like,
I can't believe, one of the things that I dislike about the Vikings uniform, and I've hated since the beginning, is that horn logo. I
hate that horn in the Metrodome that we used to have to hear.
Yeah, really.
God damn.
But the Vikings logo has just never worked for me. And speaking of bad logos, the original Tampa Bay Bucks logo is still the worst logo of all time. You had the orange.
I remember
Buccaneer.
the Vinny Testaverde uniforms.
Yeah, with the sword in the guy's mouth. I mean, what? That was clearly a homosexual reference there. I mean, I'm not saying it as critique. I just didn't like the logo. But number 10, the San Francisco 49ers.
Let me just say, Tampa is another one of those teams that's flip-flop uniforms a bunch. At least they kind of went back to the ones that Brady had this year was sort of the same ones that they had when Gruden was there and Tony Dungy, because the ones they had like 2012 to like 19 were really bad. But they sort of went back to the ones when they won the Super Bowl before.
Yeah. After Bucks, the 49ers, he writes solidly in the fairway. If they were to make one adjustment, maybe remove the black outline from the helmet logo on the primary home and road uniforms. Otherwise, pretty glorious. I don't know. I do like the 49ers uniforms, and I hate the 49ers team, but that's a good solid uniform. The Packers at 11. Oh, come on, you gotta be kidding.
I hate that fucking green. I hate it.
Yeah, that's just the worst. This guy has really bad taste in uniforms, Nate Davis. And then finally at 12, the Chicago Bears, and he writes, a classic football throwback without technically being one. However, when they want to spice it up, better to use the old white C logo or retro unis with the helmet similar to the University of Michigan's. Those orange jerseys should be mothballed. Disagree with the orange, but
disagree with that helmet too.
I love the helmet with the white C. You don't like that?
No. I meant the 36 one where it looks like Michigan.
Oh, okay. You like that?
I'm not a big fan of that helmet.
Yeah,
the one with the stripes.
I'm with you. That
I like the white C. I like the orange C too. I'm down with either one of those. That 1936 helmet I don't really like.
I will say this. When I first started watching the team was back in the Dick Butkus, Bobby Douglas era, and I've got a picture up on the screen now of their uniforms. Bobby Douglas, upper left-hand of the picture, is wearing all whites. all whites with the white C on the helmet. That is my favorite Bears uniform of all
Yeah,
time.
somebody told me that Virginia McCaskey is the one who hates the white on white. I don't know if that's true, but she wanted the navy pants created. She hated the white on white.
Oh, I
don't know if that's true, but somebody told me that online on Twitter.
That is weird.
Because I sent a message to Akeem Hicks. We talked about it a few weeks ago, and he responded.
Right.
And I asked him he should wear the white, because he's the one that was, championing bringing back the orange.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did it. And I was like, you need to get us to be white on white, for the road. And he's like, I would if I could. And then someone on that thread claims that Virginia McCaskey was the one opposed to the white on white.
Well, Virginia, if that's the case, I would love for you to reconsider, because that is just a classic look for me. I really love that era of the uniforms. And then also on the screen is an image of Dick Butkus from that same time, wearing the navy blue shirt with the white pants. And again, the white C logo. Love that look. Just love it. And the uniforms now, and every era since I've been alive and I've been following the Chicago Bears, I just love their uniform. When those players come out of the tunnel, when those players are lined up on offense or defense, that uniform, I just effing love it. My favorite uniforms are the Bears, the Steelers, and the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders now. Those are the three iconic uniforms for me in the NFL. The Chargers with the powder blue, I like those a lot too, but I love the old-fashioned look, and those three teams that I just mentioned are the way to go. And
well, let me ask you about the Bears real quick.
Sure.
Couple things. When they wear white on white, back in the day, they were still wearing the home socks. The ones that they wear at home now.
Yes.
The navy ones.
Mm-hmm.
But when somewhere along the lines, after the navy when the navy pants were invented in '84 is the first year they wore the navy pants, they created the white socks that have the orange and navy stripe. So whenever they would go back to wearing white on white, occasionally they would wear those white socks with it.
Mm-hmm.
So are you okay with it wearing the white socks, or you want the old navy socks, their home socks on the road too, I guess?
I like them both. I would love for them to kind of trade off on the socks. But if I had to pick one, I would go with the white, because I really, again, love that all white look, man. It just is freaking awesome.
So the white socks. But I mean, what I'm saying is when Dick Butkus or Mike Ditka or Gale Sayers played, they wore their home socks with the white on white is what I'm saying. The socks still were the navy ones.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I've got a Walter Payton fathead where he's got the white socks on, but that was later in his career. Early on, like in the 70s and early 80s, he still got the home socks with the road uniform.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying. The white on white, the socks changed after they created the navy ones for the road. Another different subtlety, other than the TV numbers changing, because they were up, they were down lower at the bottom of the sleeve.
Right.
The jersey itself used to be more navy. It was darker. Whenever it would be a dreary fall day at Soldier Field on TV, it almost looked black.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the announcers would say that, the black jersey of the Bears, when it technically wasn't black. But when Nike took over in 12, they made it a brighter blue. I guess it's technically marine blue.
Mm-hmm.
So the blue is much more profound, lighter shade blue now. I kind of like the darker better. The darker blue where it's navy, almost black. Maybe I'm getting too deep in the weeds here, but
no,
just with a uniform.
I love uniform talk. Next time we should do this again, and that way I can visualize it. We'll talk about those uniforms, and I can put pictures up on the screen so that people can visualize what we're talking about. I'm a TV person. What can I say? You're a radio guy. You ever want to work in TV?
No, because I look like Nixon in the first debate with Kennedy. I'm out there fucking sweating under the lights. Like, this guy just got out of the hospital. Why is he so fucking fat? I don't know.
Get out of here.
I'm giving Fat Mike a run for his fucking girth.
People in the chat room have been asking, how come you're not on camera? One person asked, what?
But I've told you that it wasn't. I'm at work.
Oh, I know.
I even showed you how far the tower was from the board and stuff. It's literally not feasible.
Right. But I told people it's because you're in the witness protection program, and that
we'll go by that. Then.
The photo that is up on the screen of you right now is not your real photo.
Is that it? I'll go with that then. That's it. I'm like
Ray
Liotta in Goodfellas trying to get spaghetti, and it's not worth a shit.
One of the great endings. Wasn't that a great ending when he looks at the
It was. My favorite part of that film, I think, is that when it shifts to that day and it starts out the morning, yes. And he's trying to get the fucking dinner lined up, and he's got to go sell the guns, and I love that part of the film. And there's something that there's a helicopter, and it's following me. Like, I love that whole sequence. I think it's great.
If that sequence to me felt like, in fact, the whole movie had a kind of deja vu feel for me, because I grew up during that era when Ray Liotta's wife, played by Lorraine Bracco, is showing the house. I lived in apartments like that. It was like my stepfather was a drug dealer, and he took our apartment and he decked it out in that kind of era. And so it felt so deja vu. And then that scene that you're making reference to, that it's so hyperactive, that scene. He's trying to make the pasta, there's a helicopter chasing him, and he's trying to get the niece to take the drugs and so forth. That felt to me like a lot of my cocaine experiences when I was in my 20s and doing cocaine, where everything was like super hyper active. It felt to me like Scorsese directed that while he was under the influence of blow, man, because it really. Have you ever done cocaine?
I've never done any drugs. I never even smoked weed.
Never, huh?
I've never smoked a cigarette.
Wow.
I have drunk my copious amounts of alcohol. Yeah.
The Tony Solomonsky asked the question, what's the best movie you've ever watched while you were high? But so you can't answer that question because you've never seen a movie while you were high, huh?
I do love the drug movie, as I've mentioned before, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, though. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've never been high. So my dad was an addict. My dad, like I said, that's how he numbed himself from his Vietnam experiences. Mm-hmm. And I watched him fuck up over and over and over as a kid because he was on drugs. And I just knew from, I'm not trying to sound better than anybody else. In fact, I feel like it's probably in my genetics to do the same shit. So I just said, I'm not doing it.
Tony Solomonsky has clearly done blow before, because he says, I've blown my bloody nose on a wall before. Jeez. When you do a lot of cocaine, your nose can't start to bleed. And so he clearly has done, he's done a few lines in his day.
Hey, real quick, not to change the subject, but before we lose it,
sure.
Being Goodfellas, as much as I love Goodfellas, I think Casino is even better.
Mike North, I think, says the same thing. I don't agree with you guys. I think it's a great, great movie, but to me, Goodfellas, I'm putting as in the top 3 of all time great crime movies, along with Godfather 2.
You like Godfather 2 better than 1?
Oh yeah.
See, I know everyone says that because of De Niro and the prequel, the backstory. Mm-hmm. But I think watching Brando die with the grandson is so sweet and authentic. Like, that's how a guy like that would probably die, like trying to play this kid with an orange in his mouth. And you see him overcome the violence and getting shot at the fruit stand. And like, to me, as much, I like Al better than Brando. Don't get me wrong. But Brando's death, to me, makes Godfather 1 better than 2, because his death legitimately could make me cry if I watched that scene.
Really?
Yeah, because he's with the kid, he's with the grandson. I mean, everyone's had a grandparent die, or for me, my parents are both dead. So you could put yourself in that spot and think, oh God, that could be me. It could have been me watching my grandpa die. Like, it just feels so real. Like, I think that for me personally, that makes one better than two. But I think the Casino and Goodfellas are both probably better than both of them, honestly. But they have the benefit of being 20 years later as well.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're set back in those days, but just, the film advancement's better. The music in Casino is just on fucking point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the soundtrack is so good.
It really is.
And Sharon Stone adds to it, and even James Woods is the side guy who's using her, and oh God, it's so good, man.
It is. It's a great film, but I'm sticking with Goodfellas, and so is JMNA 9357. He says Goodfellas #1 over Casino.
You know what? I should interrupt just a second, because again, my nephew was born in 2001, so I've had him. I started taking him to concerts when we could go to concerts. I started making him watch movies that he missed because he was born in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't gotten to Godfather 3 yet, but he and I personally have watched Casino, Goodfellas, the first two Godfather films, and The Irishman. And his favorite out of all of those is The fucking Irishman.
Is that right?
I know. I mean, I like The Irishman too, but I mean, not better than any of those other ones.
Uh-huh.
He said The Irishman was like by far his favorite. I was like, wow. And he's seen Scarface too. He thought The Irishman was better than in Scarface. I was like, wow, that's cool. I like his original opinion, but I disagree with him.
Yeah, I'm with you. What about, what have you heard of Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Martin Scorsese movie?
That's the one that DiCaprio was supposed to be playing with De Niro, right?
Right.
And now DiCaprio is going to play a supporting role versus a starring role. So that's disappointing.
Well, from what I've read is that while it is a lesser role in terms of screen time, it is the most pivotal character in the movie. And I think that's probably what drove DiCaprio to making the switch. And Jesse Plemons is now taking over the DiCaprio role, which I think is fabulous for him because he's a really good actor.
Another Scorsese film we should talk about is The Departed.
Yeah.
DiCaprio's in that. I don't like Matt Damon, but he's got a good role, and
Damon
Wahlberg's
is
in
great.
it.
Why don't you like Matt Damon?
I don't like his films.
Really?
Matt, like the only film he's in that I can think of that I like is The Departed.
You didn't like a Good Will Hunting?
No, I just don't like Matt Damon. I don't know why. I don't like Matt Damon, and I fucking hated that movie. Wasn't he in Pearl Harbor?
No, that was Ben Affleck.
I like Ben Affleck, but I thought he was in it too. Like, that movie was garbage, man. I just fucking hated Pearl Harbor.
Well, Matt Damon has been in some good movies. The Bourne Identity movies are good action films. Really?
That makes me want to. I'd rather go shave my balls. I just not.
Do you use that
Manscaped
thing that I send you to shave your balls?
Yeah, I shave my balls frequently, a couple times a month.
Wow, good for you, man. Right,
now, the character that Nicholson plays in The Departed, Whitey Bulger, although they don't use his name, Johnny Depp used his name in Black Mass and went by Whitey Bulger.
That's right.
Black Mass was good too.
Oh, I love that film.
It was very good.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else? You wanted to talk.
You want to finish the uniform talk?
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought when we got to the Bears at number 12, is it really necessary to go over the Bills at 13?
Well,
Chiefs
I wanted to
14?
mention that I like the Buffalo uniforms better than the Jim Kelly era.
Oh, absolutely.
With the red helmet.
Yes. Well, I love the white helmet with the red buffalo, the O.J. Simpson era.
I like the red helmet, like from Thurman, Andre Reed, Jim Kelly.
Those are good. Now, and normally I don't like helmets that are white, but those buffalo ones with the red buffalo, I thought were pretty cool. You know what? He's got this author has got Nate Davis has got the Chiefs at 14. I actually like the Chiefs uniforms a lot. The Arrowhead logo, it's always worked for me.
Yeah, they're okay. I don't dislike them.
They're okay.
They're okay. Like, I was thinking that my favorites are probably I think Oakland's the best, or Las Vegas is the best. The Bears are second, and I'd put Los Angeles, the Chargers, third. That would be my top three.
Tony Salamanski's got a problem with you. He says, how do you love Ben Affleck and hate Matt Damon? I'm with him.
Ben
man.
Affleck was in a great film about the Iranian hostage crisis, too, called
It
Argo.
was an okay movie. It wasn't a great movie.
I thought Argo was great. I saw it on my birthday on Halloween night in 2012 at the theater. I thought it was great.
I saw it was on recently. I saw the last 30, 40 minutes of it again. And it's a good movie. I'm not going to say it isn't, but the problem that I had with that film is that the better movie would have been the telling of the story that they cover in the first 5 minutes with animation, how the CIA overthrew the democratically elected.
Yeah, Mossadegh.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, here the Iranians, they elect a president. This president, because he wants to nationalize the oil industry, all of a sudden the British asked the CIA for help in overthrowing them.
That. You can't kick BP out.
Right, exactly.
He was on Time Magazine. He was Man of the Year.
Right. So,
on Time Magazine in 1953.
Right. And so people wonder, well, why do those people in that part of the world hate us? Well, we went over there and fucking killed off the president of their country. I mean, this is proven. It's a great book. You should read this.
Right. And when the Shah fled, when I don't want to call them religious radicals, but they kind of are, to be, the radical Muslims, not that all Muslims are radical, but that sect, in 1979, the problem was when the Shah fled, the U.S. brought him in and let him have sanctuary here.
Oh, yeah.
So they wanted him to go back to Iran and face trial.
Mm-hmm.
So we protected him until he died, so that made them hate us even more.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I thought Argo was a great film, though. Man, I thought it was great.
Great.
Yeah, but I like Affleck a lot better than the last movie I saw at the theater. Actually, was Affleck as an alcoholic basketball coach.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Did you like that?
Yeah, it's really dark, and it's not what you think. It's not him going to the hood to take a bunch of losers and turning them into winners. It's a guy who is a fucking drunk, and his alcoholism is killing him. Like, not in an exaggerated sense. This could be your uncle or my uncle, or it could be somebody that you know. It just feels really authentic to me, like his performance. And as we know, he's had problems with booze in real life.
That's
so
right.
that probably added to his performance.
That's right.
Because he could empathize with the character so much.
Well, I still think that Matt Damon is a better actor.
Maybe he is. There's just, maybe it's just like how some people just hated Jay Cutler. I just don't like Matt Damon. I don't know.
Stephen Mee, who is who lives in Ireland, says that Matt Damon is in Dublin at the moment filming his new movie.
It's The Bourne Identity Part 19.
And when's the guy going to get his memory back?
God damn it. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this feels like he's in so many bad movies.
We got a couple of football questions here I want to get to. Swanky has just joined us, and he wants to know, are the Bears going to trade up to get a quarterback? We talked about this a little bit at the top of the show. I'm going to reiterate, I'm starting to have doubts that the Bears don't have the resources, first of all, to outbid anyone who is looking to trade up for one of those top 5 quarterbacks, who all 5, I think, will be chosen by the top 10 picks. At the latest, all 5 will be gone by then. I think the Bears will be outbid by, like, the Patriots. The Patriots want one of those guys too, and they've got the 16th pick. So they've got.
To me, the real question is, once San Francisco drafts a quarterback, are they going to cut Garoppolo? And if they do, how quickly do the Bears sign him? And again, if you're going to sign Jimmy, then you've already told Andy he's the starter, and you have Foles there.
Right.
But you know that they want Garoppolo. I mean, all the offseason report, I think if he'd have been cut before, he would have been our quarterback.
I think that the 49ers are going to keep Garoppolo one more season, and that whoever they draft at quarterback is going to be the backup. for a season. They're going to groom that person to be the starting quarterback. I really believe that Garoppolo is one more year with the 49ers. I mean, management over in San Francisco has said things that they would look really fucking bad if they traded or released Garoppolo. I mean, they've said he's our quarterback. He's going to be on our roster. That just to me.
We also said it was Mike Glennon's year. So
yes, but Mike Glennon, played poorly. Now that's a totally different story. You're talking about Garoppolo who led the 49ers
who led a team
to
to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't understand. Other than him being hurt,
right?
Because he's missed a lot of football out there. I don't understand. Look, there's one play in that Super Bowl where it's like 3rd and 6. If they pick up the blitz and get the first down, they win that game.
Mm-hmm.
They take off another 2 or 3 minutes of time before they have to kick, arguably in field goal range, and he's a Super Bowl champion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe he should have been able to handle the blitz because it was obvious that it was coming. That's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, this dude had a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter of a Super Bowl, and they lost. For him to just be garbage now from the 49er fan base, I don't understand it. But they kind of did the same thing to Kaepernick too. And maybe a lot of that was politics, but my point is he took him to a Super Bowl and then suddenly they're like, fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand. I don't think Jimmy G's bad, but hell, so many people do.
Yeah, I just feel like he's average. He's not a franchise quarterback by any means, hopefully
I think he would be better than what we've had in recent years for sure.
Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree.
I think he'd be better than Foles. He'd be better than Dalton. He definitely would be better than
Trubisky?
Than Mitch. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think he'd be better than Trubisky. I hate to say it. He's definitely better than Glennon or Brian Hoyer. And I don't know about – I love Jay so much, so I don't want to say he's better than Cutler, but maybe.
People are saying the Bears should trade up for Justin Fields, the Ohio State quarterback. Really, I believe any one of those 5 quarterbacks is going to be a good, maybe great quarterback in the NFL. I really, really believe it. So it would be nice, but I just – the other thing is, again, like I said earlier, I hate trading away multiple first-round draft picks, And then what if one of those young guys doesn't play well?
Right, he could be Sam Darnold.
Right, so
he was the 3rd player in the draft. Trubisky is the 2nd player in the draft. So you could trade up and give up the whole farm, and then you miss.
Right. Would you rather get, like, let's say, one of those 5 quarterbacks, I know you don't follow college football very closely, but if you had to pick one of those 5 quarterbacks based on what you've heard and read and seen on TV,
the kid from BYU, if I was scripting it,
Zach Wilson. So my question for you is: would you trade 3 first-round draft picks and a couple of other assets for Zach Wilson or for Russell Wilson?
Ooh, if I was going to give up 3 picks, I say neither. But if I was going to give up, say, 2 first-round picks and, I don't know, a second, I'd probably go for Mr. Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's going to take a lot more than 2 first-round picks and a second.
I know. But I'm just saying if I had to make that trade, I would rather, in theory, have the younger quarterback, but I don't want to, like we just pointed out, how many times the younger quarterbacks fail.
Yeah.
And the Bears are definitely, as Jim McMahon said, a place for the quarterbacks to come and die.
That's right.
So, I mean, fuck, are we going to maybe Dalton is what we need, somebody that's got some experience and a little bit of belief in himself, because at times it felt like Mitch lost his confidence frequently. But again, Cutler always felt highly about himself, and it didn't result in anything, but maybe we just need to give Andy a chance here is what I'm saying, and just see how he plays. Maybe he earns his gig,
let's say over a 17-game regular season, Andy Dalton is going to pass for almost 4,000 yards. He's going to pass.
What if he hits 4,000?
Oh, he probably will.
Because we've not had one.
Yeah.
And all the there's not been one person that I know on any podcast who is like, oh my God, I cannot wait to get my Dalton jersey. Are you buying yours? Like nobody has been like elated by this acquisition at all.
No.
So wouldn't it be ironic that we would get a quarterback that nobody wanted who suddenly had statistics better than everybody in the history of the franchise for one season?
Mm-hmm. I think it could happen. And the question was raised, I think, by Brad Biggs in the Sunday Tribune is, should perhaps the Chicago Bears say, all right, so we're trading all of these assets for one of those quarterbacks is just too much. Let's give Andy Dalton everything that he needs to succeed. So in the first round, you draft a kid like Tevin Jenkins, move him over to left tackle or to right tackle. Then in the second round, you draft a outstanding wide receiver. So now you've got, Allen Robinson, you've got Darnell Mooney, you got this young kid wide receiver, you've got Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet, you've got David Montgomery and Damian Williams. That's a pretty good
And don't
offensive
forget
set.
Tariq Cohen.
And Tariq Cohen is back. My man, Tariq Cohen. So all of a sudden, Mr. Andy Dalton has got some pretty good weapons, and he
But
actually
does Matt Nagy know what to do with it? That's the
no,
next
of course not. Well, if he doesn't, then clearly this will be Matt Nagy's last season. So I just feel like at this point, trading away all these assets for one of those top 5 quarterbacks, I'm starting to wonder if that's the best thing. And I
agree with you. I think exactly what you and Brad Biggs painted there. I'm buying that because, as we know, it's much more affordable for Seattle to dump Wilson at the end of the season, or maybe even Garoppolo becomes available. Somebody like that,
right?
Where if Dalton doesn't perform well, then maybe you do get Russell Wilson next year, and maybe you can still draft somebody young next year.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be done this year. You don't have to do that. It's like we all wanted an instant fix when Mitch. When it was clear he wasn't coming back, we wanted an instant answer, and I am one of them. So, but maybe we have to go with the bridge quarterback for a year, or maybe he exceeds our expectations, and you draft somebody next year.
Yeah,
or maybe you draft somebody like the 3rd round this year that pans out. Like Kirk Cousins was a 3rd round pick.
That's
Look
right.
at all the money he's made in the league. Now you can say, well, he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't, whatever. But he's exceeded any expectation that Washington had when they drafted him in the 3rd round.
I think it was the 4th round they drafted.
Oh, 4th round. Okay,
Yeah.
see?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And obviously, everyone knows Brady by this point was a 6th round pick.
Dak Prescott, another 4th round.
4th rounder, yeah. So, and it seems like to me that Dak is, wow, he was overpaid. Like, I'm glad we didn't pay Dak that money, but good for him. I'm glad he got it, and I hope his foot's better. Oof. God damn it, that was nasty.
Yeah, I saw some video of him working out. It looks like his foot is on track. He'll be starting game 1, that's for sure.
Speaking of horrible leg injuries, Alex Smith retired yesterday.
Oh, that's why I see his name trending, and I got the TV on in the background. I seen highlights of him. So that's what the deal is. He retired, huh?
Yeah, he officially retired, and that's good for him. He proved that he could come back. And what else do you have to prove, man? I mean, just go out. You're going to be as healthy now as you could possibly ever be again from NFL injuries. So why put yourself in a spot to break your leg again or, have another head injury, whatever? Like, just go, man.
Yeah. It's got
for your own sake. Right. Just go.
It's got a beautiful family. You should enjoy them. I'm totally with you.
And he went from being where most people considered him to be the first overall pick in the draft as a bust. He rewrote that, which it wasn't fair that he was considered a bust anyway. He had them in the NFC Championship game in 2011, and they lost to Eli, and then Eli won against the Patriots again. But people forget that. It's not like he didn't win anything in San Francisco. He was one game away from the Super Bowl, but he was still thought it was a bust, and he managed to overcome that narrative in Kansas City and overcome that leg injury in Washington. So I think he's had a good career. Definitely.
All right. I want to finish the show up by talking about Brett Favre.
Oh, yeah.
You go ahead.
Brett Favre is an attention whore. And as time goes by, and because of Rodgers kicking our ass for the last 10 years plus,
yes,
I've kind of like I thought I was growing soft on Favre a little bit, like my hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And then something always comes up and reminds me, no, this guy's an asshole.
That's right.
It's just
tell people what he said.
He's got a problem with the league now. He doesn't watch it because it's not about the game anymore. So again, it's so please listen. If you're conservative, if you're the guy that calls us libtards or whatever, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be caustic toward you right now, but it's ironic to me. There's two things that Republicans do that they never see the irony in. One, how many times I've seen a Confederate flag and an American flag together from redneck Republicans, not realizing those are opposing ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I don't even want to get into. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just being a fucking liberal hater here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I won't go on. You go ahead. You jump in. I don't want to get off on a political rant.
Well, I just feel like Brett has.
I'm going to say it. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, say it.
They constantly talk about cancel culture.
Right.
Like ever since Biden got in, that's all you hear about on Fox is cancel culture. But yet they're the ones canceling shit. Like, Donald Trump doesn't want anybody to watch baseball anymore. And like, Brett Favre doesn't agree with, their stance on what I guess Kaepernick kneeling 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't watch the game anymore. And so you've canceled football because you don't like the politics. I mean, but again, they're the ones who are always whining about cancel culture. So there, I said it. I'm sorry, I'm the asshole.
Tony Solomonski hasn't typed this up, but I bet you he's typing it right now saying you are an asshole.
Well, I don't mean to be divisive, but
I don't think
that was
you
what
are.
I saw when I saw that from Favre. I'm like, God damn it. All I heard about for years was like, man, Brett Favre loves ball. He plays football like a kid. Nobody likes the game as much as Brett did. This fucking shit. And, but all these other things, like him showing his dick to employees when he's at the Jets, texting his fucking cock to people, all the bullshit constantly. Like the reason they drafted Aaron Rodgers was because of him. Brett Favre, as far back, don't forget his fucking pill addiction or whatever too. But okay, everyone has problems. But as far back as 99, Favre was saying, I don't know if the old arm's got it anymore. I might be thinking about retirement. So he was talking about retirement in like 99. So Green Bay every offseason, like he lost the first ever playoff game at Lambeau for the Packers to Michael Vick in 2002. And that night after the game, I don't know if I got it anymore. Don't know if I'm going to be back. So every year they had to deal with this prima donna worrying, talking about how he's going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you're going to retire. We've held about it. You've held us hostage worrying about it for 6 years. So we're going to draft this fucking kid who's fallen in the draft, being Rodgers. And then, Favre does lead them back to a championship game. And they said, well, we're going to go with the kid or we're going to have open competition. I ain't good with that. I'm Brett Favre. Trade me to the Vikings or the Bears. Like, why would they trade him to the Vikings or the Bears? Why? Like Rodgers, like if Rodgers hasn't done this yet, but he might, trade me to the Bears or the Vikings. But Brett Favre can't be serious. Like, there's no way they'd want to trade you to the rival. Mm-hmm. But the whole time he was wanting to go to the Bears or the Vikings. So he forces his trade to the fucking Jets after he retired. Remember, every offseason, Scott Hansen's down in Kill, Mississippi, or wherever the fuck that town was called. We're on Brett's lawn, Favre Watch. At Total Access at Favre Watch every offseason. This guy was an attention whore. He finally he goes to the Jets and then finally forces his way to the fucking the Vikings, which is what he wanted the whole time, to stick it to Green Bay. And honestly, I was rooting for him when he went to stick it to Green Bay at Lambeau Field as a member of the Vikings because I hate Green Bay that much. But yeah, the guy for years was a bad guy is what I'm trying to say. Like, and no one ever called him on it because they're like, well, he loved ball and he threw those touchdowns when his dad died. So we love him. And he gets a pass for all the shit he did. And like, and since then he's buddied up with Green Bay and made it seem like, he never left. But he and Rodgers don't like each other. I mean, I can understand why he wouldn't like Rodgers, because Rodgers called him grandpa as soon as he saw him. He tried out for Monday Night Football. He wasn't any good. That's like shocking. They hired that fucking guy that was at Dallas. What was his name? The tight end. He was horrible. And he's in the league. He's bouncing around now.
Jason Witten?
They hired Jason Witten, and they wouldn't even hire Favre. Like, how bad could Favre have been where they're like, no, we're not going to hire you. We're going to hire Jason Witten, who was fucking horrendous. But, yeah, and then Favre just tries to make himself relevant again, I think. I don't know if that's what it is, but, like, for him to say he doesn't watch, okay, fine, don't watch the fucking game anymore. You know who's going to watch it? We are. Maybe that's because, but he's going to the bank. He's still getting paid, and rightfully so. He earned every dime. He put his body on the line. I won't take that away from him. And he played forever. So I'm saying he's got enough money where he doesn't have to worry about my opinion or yours or anybody else's. And, but okay, fine, go to the bank. We'll watch the game. It's just, he seems like such a hypocrite to me.
He really is. There's no doubt about it.
Why does Fat Mike love him? A Bears fan who loves Favre, and he and I, like, I'm not trying to take a cheap shot because he's not here, but he said on this network that he had a Favre Packers jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said he had the Vikings one too.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I like him. I've sent him Bears games. I like the guy. I wish him well. And I'm glad his podcast got over. So, I mean, fucking went viral. So good for him. But like, I never could understand his love for Favre. Because that's the guy that likes kicking our ass for so long. Do you side with the bully at school? The guy that's taking your money constantly? I mean, if you were getting your ass kicked, you're not just going to acquiesce and join the team. Like, you want to beat that guy. That's the way I look at it.
Totally agree. Hey, before we go, a lot of people want to know about your set.
That's supposed to be a vibrator? I've never had a vibrator in my ass. Never.
Never? Holy shit. You don't know what you're missing.
One time. Not one time. I am comfortable with my sexuality. I don't want to be pegged. I've been offered. Stephanie, who's 6'2", I won't say her last name, she told me, she was used to being in lesbian relationships, and she always had to be the guy, because even though she's not manly at all, but she's 6'2", like legit 6'2".
Wow.
Yeah, when she wore heels, she's as tall as I am.
Ooh, baby. Nice.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, looking at her eye to eye, and she had heels on. But anyway, she's like, I've got all this equipment because I always have to do it, and it kind of bores me. But if you want me to peg you, I will. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm good.
You should try it, man.
I haven't seen her. She's actually, ironically, in Mississippi right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has no accent. And maybe it's kind of ironic because people say that about me in West Virginia, but she grew up in Mississippi and when I knew her, she was living in Virginia, but she went back down there pandemic, I guess, to be with her family or something. But she grew up in Mississippi and didn't sound like it at all. Wow. And she said, yeah, her conversations were like really like stereotyping, like completely busting all of that. She was just saying like the part of Mississippi she was from, like interracial dating wasn't like scorned, or everyone wasn't prejudiced. All these things that, I myself even would consider about Mississippi. She was like, it wasn't like that for me at all. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, she tried to fuck me in the ass with a toy, and I turned it down. So,
I can't get any better than that with sharing a story about your sex life. Swanky wants to know, how are the escorts in West Virginia?
I don't know. I'm not trying to sound better than anybody, but I haven't, paid for any ass or anything.
You've never had sex from a professional before?
No.
Never.
No.
You're being totally honest.
You mean a professional in terms of like a dirty whore, or
no? It could be a
hooker, or like an escort.
Anyone that you paid money to either get a blowjob or anal sex or put a vibrator.
All right, I will dig deep into the stories if you want one.
Wait a minute. Let me play my clip again. It's
vibrator.
It's a light bulb
Okay.
in a room, and then scrawled on the wall, it says Dan's sex life.
Okay. This is going back years.
What do you got?
So I was in high school. I'll just say her first name, and it's a common name, so it could be anybody. So I used to I sat beside this girl named Amanda, and she was a cheerleader, and she had, I don't remember how tall she was, but like all she was legs, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she was only like 5'8" or 9, her fucking legs is what just jumped the fuck out. She had, it just, God damn it. It just seemed like her fucking legs were fucking incredible. Like I had a girlfriend during the majority of this time, but I sat beside her in a couple of classes, and I would just constantly look over. I'd go home and jack off thinking about her legs, and thinking about opening her legs and their little fucking cheerleader outfit on and stuff. And God, I can't believe I'm burying my soul with this one.
Hey, that's good, man.
Fast forward 2010. So we're 30 now, and I haven't seen her but a couple of times since school. Well, at some point during that time, she got on drugs and shit, which is unfortunate because but to be fair, the last like 6-7 years, she got her shit together. She's got a job. She turned the corner. She lives in Indianapolis now, I think. So it's a success story, but at the time she was down really low on it. So I hadn't seen her, we were just talking on like Facebook Messenger or something, and she propositions me. And I was like, no. Man, first off, I wasn't going to fuck her because, again, she's put needles in her fucking arm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get hepatitis or who knows what else. But she still, despite the drugs, was a good-looking girl. But I knew what she'd been doing because she's asking me for money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought about it. And I thought about all the times that I was a kid that I jacked off thinking about her.
Mm-hmm. And
so I was like, how much do you fucking want anyway? She's like, well, I mean, I was like, because I know you and, you're a good guy and I know I'm not in any harm or Jeopardy or whatever. And she's like, well, if I have to drive to your apartment, because I live in an apartment which was a different town over from her, which is like a 20-minute drive for her. She's like, if I drive to your place, then I'm going to want $40. I was like, $40? I was like, all right. I was expecting her to like hit me up with some crazy, like some like, oh, it'll be 100. Like, oh, fuck that. I don't want head that bad, And I didn't even want head that bad anyway. Like I said, I didn't seek her out. She propositioned me.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because she liked me. It's because she was doing something nefarious and some type of drug habit. But I mean, I'm not the moral police here, but I also didn't want to catch a disease. But don't worry, again, before I got married, we got tested and everything. I have nothing, so I don't want to jinx that. But, but this happened before I got married,
Okay.
But yeah, she came over and I could just admire she's sucking my dick, and I was looking down at her, and I was like, man, how many times I beat off to this bitch in school, and she's sucking my dick right now, and
for $40.
Yeah, that's the only time. Like I said, but I didn't seek it out. It's not like I was desperate.
Oh no, you were helping her out.
Well, no, not really. I should have been. I got a proposition by another lady, which is a different story. One of my friends in school, whom I did like a lot as a person, and she was attractive too, but she was married really young. She got married as soon as she got out of school, so she and I kept in touch on Facebook and stuff. Her name was Amanda too, but she died. She was a mom. Like she died like 37 of some random drug overdose. And like, she always told me, like, because she was always really skinny when we were kids. And then in her 30s, she said, you can tell I don't do drugs now because I'm fat. Because like, she was never fat at all. She said, but when she got up, she got cleaned and stuff, like didn't do any drugs. Like she said, she put on weight. I mean, she still wasn't fat, but that was her joke about her. She was probably, plus size, and before she was more like a 2 or a 4. You get the point. So,
sure.
but yeah, I didn't even think, I believed her when she said she was clean, and then she died of an overdose. But her sister, her younger sister that was in 9th grade when she and I graduated in 12th, like was hitting me up on Facebook saying, trying to get me to pay. I was like, look, your sister just died. She would beat my ass if she knew, A, I was hitting on her little sister, but B, after she died. I was like, I'm not. She's like, yeah, but she would want me to be with somebody that she liked. I was like, I can't pay my friend's sister to suck my dick. I can't. I'm not going to. I mean, again, she's on dope and shit, which is part of the reason she's trying to get random guys to pay her for head, which I'm just saying, I turned her down flat out. Because even if I was desperate, which I wasn't, again, there's the context that I was her sister's friend. But beyond that, like I said, it's not like I'm seeking out prostitutes or something, and I can't believe I've admitted this anyway. Well, I did tell Marissa, we were already married when I told her the story, and she was really hot and was like, I can't believe you didn't tell me this. I can't believe you did this. I'm so ashamed of you. She was so hot about it. I was like, God, you act like I told you that I used to suck dick or something. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, if you had a whole legion of dick sucking and was hiding it, then that would be a surprise, Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to offend homosexuals in any way, but I mean, if you had a double life, is what I'm saying, and you were like, oh, I was doing this and I didn't tell you about it. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, she looked really down on me. It's ironic because she was blowing another guy at the same time, but the affair was already going, but I didn't know it yet.
So how many of these stories that you have, can we make this as a regular feature?
I mean, I've told most of I've told a lot of stories on here.
You have. I mean, I'm just hoping that you have more.
That one is deeply embarrassing. I'm just glad it's at the end of the run here. So I'm hoping that no one that knows me in real life, if they were casually listening to this, would make it to the 4.5 hour mark. So somebody that I work with or something, that would mortify me. But at least, like I said, I did not. She offered to let me, to fuck her. And I was extremely tempted. I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it. But I knew that I couldn't. I just felt like if I do this, I'm going to catch something. You technically could catch something just receiving head probably too, but still, I couldn't do it, and I wanted to. I wanted to so badly, but I didn't do it.
PJ has a great idea. He says that we should do a new show called Dan's Porn Hour.
No, man. I mean, it'd be better if I looked like Zac Efron, and then my stories would have, this guy, but I'm just me, I gross myself out too. So yeah, I get it. But I don't want to be like a joke either. It's one of the things I was always, this is really buried my soul. It was one of the things I was always offline, telling Phil. I was like, you just want me to fucking sing ODB and shit so you can make fun of me. Just admit it, man. And of course he'd say, oh, that's not true or whatever. But I always felt that it was just to make him laugh at me, but not in a good way. It was I'm not kicking Phil. I like Phil. I respect Phil and whatever. I'm not kicking him, but in that aspect, I don't just want to be people just think I'm silly or just the object of their fucking, he's telling another sex. I don't want to jump the shark with my own stories is what I'm saying.
No. Well, I got to tell you, people in the chat room are commenting and they're just laughing and having a good time with it and so forth.
Good. I if I can make somebody laugh because they're laughing at me in the story, then that's fine. But if you know what I mean, there's a difference in making fun of you versus laughing with you. Absolutely. And I think that's what I'm saying. I don't want to just be the object of what a fool this guy is, Yeah, but that was like I said, that story is really bearing my soul because it's really humiliating, but it happened. So I don't think you should feel humiliated by it. Yeah, man. Like I said, just the fact that I knew she was doing shit and I was still willing to allow her to blow me, that's an unnecessary risk. And I shouldn't have. But I was only 30. Not that makes it any better. But that was not the best decision. I mean, thankfully, nothing came out of it in terms of like I didn't like learn a lesson. I didn't have to because I knew afterwards it was the stupid thing to do. You know, so. Well, I don't want to be the guy that, you know, is like, well, kids, this is what leads to the herpes. You know?
Oh, well, it's really a perfect way to end this episode of Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. You know, I hope that I can come up with a story like that someday, man, because that was a great fucking story.
Really? It was just talking about getting a blowjob.
Yeah, well, the thing is all we got into it. I asked you ever paid for it? You ever paid for it? Now, come on, really? And then finally you go, okay, I'll tell you funny story.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I was like going down the street and like looking for a random hooker.
Well, and I will admit that I did that once.
Well, I would, in theory, like I said, in theory, I would do that like if it was something extravagant. Like, it wouldn't just be a girl on the street because you don't want to catch something. The girl on the street is shooting up probably.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want hepatitis, but if it was like an escort sense and it was like something I hadn't done, I would be tempted. Like, you know, like a Palestinian lady or an Arab lady of some kind or something I haven't like. Not that I view women as a checklist, but something I haven't done, you know?
Sure.
Like that would be extravagant to me. Like, you know, a lady from like Saudi Arabia or something like that. I'd be like, wow, that would be what, or even like my dad used to joke, and it was weird especially because I was 12 when my dad died. So it's not exactly like I was like even beaten off yet, but he would tell me like, yeah, who knows how many siblings you have in Vietnam? And I really didn't know what it meant at the time. You know, I mean, I kind of did, but not really. Like, what's he saying? Oh, he was coming in a bunch of Vietnamese women. Okay. So maybe I would do that and in my own head, be no pun intended, thinking like, now I'm really doing my father's work. Sleeping with a Vietnamese lady.
PJ says the best compliment I could give Dan is this: I could hang out with him. He is a genuinely funny guy.
Well, thank you. I can be too serious a lot of times. You know, like I don't like going to bars and shit like that. So I'm not necessarily fun. I mean. And then if we're watching football, like I don't want to drink when I'm watching the game because I'm trying to watch the fucking game. Like right. I'm not one of the guys, like I would not be a guy if somebody wants to hang out at the stadium because for one, I don't want to sit outside and fucking eat, stand in the fucking Soldier Field parking lot. I want to go in Soldier Field. Like I want to be in the stadium and watching the fucking warm-ups.
Yeah, me too.
Whenever I'm there, I don't want to be in the parking lot. I don't want to be listening to some asshole in the lot talk about his kielbasa. I want to be in the stadium, watching the warm-ups, thinking how the game's going to go. And then maybe I'll drink later if they win because I never drink when I'm down. If I drink and I'm down, I just start to feel like, oh, God, I just feel like I should be working out. You know, like you're already too heavy and now you're just drinking. You know, I get in my own head and I don't even enjoy the drink. If I'm happy, it makes it even better. But if I'm down and drink, it just makes me more depressed. So, but I don't want to drink during the game, and everybody else does, for the most part.
Yep, I'm with you. I can totally understand that. Hey, I want to take a 30-second break. I'm going to play this ad about our new swag shop, and then on the other end, I got a question for you. So head over to Deep Dish Teas. That's like a deep dish pizza, but teas, TEES.com. And you'll see Bear's Barroom right on the menu line there, or you could just hit deepdishteas.com/barroom, and it'll take you to our page. And we've got all this great stuff, and it would be nice to support the barroom. But the question that I have for you is, I got an idea as you were sharing your story. You know, one of the things that we don't have in the swag shop is Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls t-shirts. And so I've been thinking, you know, would anybody want to buy a Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls shirt?
I'm sure they wouldn't.
Exactly. You're not going to be walking around the name of two guys on your shirt, you know? So I've been thinking about maybe redesigning it where it just says Bare Their Souls or something. And so if anybody out there has an idea, Dan, you have an idea, let me know. And if it makes sense, then we'll put it up in the swag shop. But then as you were sharing the sex story, I thought to myself, well, what about if we did like a cast of Dan Aguirre's cock and sold the Dan Aguirre dildo?
No. By the way, Marilyn Manson has his own dildo. That's true.
Well, what about your dildo?
With his face on it, you know? That's true. It sold for like $100.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Tony Salamanski says, I'm kidding, Dan. I love you in a fucked up way. And what is he kidding about?
Well, my penis is nothing to write home about. Like I said, if I'm fully hard, I'm 6 inches, fully hard, but I've got good width, I guess you could say. But it's not a dildo. Like, if you're going to make a dildo, you want Tommy Lee's cock.
Yeah, but you know, there's a lot of women who don't want a Tommy Lee. They want
they're liars. They're just trying to make me feel better is what they're doing.
They want a little pocket rocket, you know.
People always tell you that, but I just don't like. I just feel like, why wouldn't they want it longer, you know? But I'm okay with it. Like I said, I am completely okay with my penis in the sense I'm not ashamed of my dick in any way. It is what it is. Like I said, it's not, you know, it's not like that show Euphoria. I don't know if you ever watched it, but we talked about it on I Have a Stream.
I saw episode 1, which I liked a lot, and haven't seen the rest of the.
There's a guy on there, and I don't know if it's fake, but like the character that loses her virginity, Kat, becomes really aggressive and knows how to like hustle men before she's a virgin when the show starts. And by the end of the season, she's like hustling men online with like a webcam, you know, and like gets naked if they fulfill her Amazon wish list and things like that. But this dude is beating off, and you see his fucking dick. And I'm telling you right now, his dick is like 2.5 inches hard.
Oh,
and it's
Jesus.
I was like, man, because I always viewed it like, man, my dick, like Tommy Lee's dick is like 3 of mine or something. But my dick was like 3 of this guy's. So my point is, like, holy fuck, I could be that guy. So I should be happy with what I have.
That's
it's like,
absolutely.
It's an okay cock that gets the job done. I am like, my dick would be like Jim Miller, or, you know, like the guy that can just go in and like, you know, lead you to victory, lead you to the O, but it's not like, it's not Cutler. It's not Tom Brady. It's not like the dick you want to polish up and be like, look at how great my dick is. You know, I'm not Brett Favre here. I'm not showing my dick to the world. So but my dick just, you know, maybe it's Andy Dalton. Maybe it's the guy that just gets in there and gets the job done this year, which is what I hope.
Dan's got the Andy Dalton of dicks.
Well, I hope not. I bet I see Dalton probably having like orange pubic hair on his.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right.
That would be goddamn terrible.
So you are not going to loan your cock to Deep Dish Teas to have it.
Man, my dick's nothing to write home about. It's like nothing to be proud of. It's okay.
No,
it's okay.
It's better than a T-shirt.
It's okay, but it's not anything I'm like proud of, like, or should show off. And again, if anything, I should, you know, be working on losing some pounds than be proud versus, you know, like, oh, here's my average cock. Hey, look at it, you know.
Travis Dunaway says that he actually was thinking about this earlier when he saw the commercial during South Burbs Hitman. He was thinking about where are the Dan and Aldo shirts? So maybe we
I
could.
thought you were thinking about my cock. I was like, where's it going with this?
I don't think Travis is at all interested in your cock.
I appreciate Travis for that fact.
All right, so okay, so if it's not a dildo, maybe Dan and Aldo, some kind of a sex toy or edible panties. How's that? Dan and Aldo edible panties.
No, that would be. I'm not going to say her name, but there used to be somebody else here that was female. Now that would be good if she would market that, but not me. I'm just a guy. Like if it's the girl marketing the edible panties, like sign me up. Like I'm buying blank edible panties for my lady. You know, like okay, we'll go for that, but not for the guy. Not for the guy.
So what else in the sex toy world?
I can say this too. I've never worn a thong. Thank God. Any guy that wears thongs, I'm embarrassed of you. Let me just say that.
What about if we do something like Dan audio sex stories or something like that? No?
Well, you had some good ones too now, like some Aldo sex stories.
You got the better voice to narrate those than I do.
You were telling us one about the lady like making you come in like 2 minutes when she fingered you in the ass or something.
Yeah, that was my first wife. I was always bothering her, let's have anal sex. And every once in a while she would, let me, but it wasn't one of her favorite things to do. And so like, I think the fourth or fifth time, she allows me. No, we were having vaginal sex, missionary position, and she stuck her finger up my asshole, and I ejaculated seconds later. Seconds. I mean, it wasn't even, on my mind, and she stuck her finger in my asshole, and all of a sudden I'm like coming like a fucking banshee. And I said, okay, don't ever fucking do that again. Don't, because that felt way too good for a heterosexual man. Just do not do that again. And I never asked her for anal sex, and she never stuck her finger up my ass. And so I'm totally comfortable with.
Well, here goes you bare your soul's fact for you. I've never enjoyed. I shouldn't say never, but I've never been into the sodomy at all. But the reason being is because I don't think, like, I know that a woman is not going to come if I'm constantly like, hey, does that hurt? Is that too fast? Is that too deep? Like the whole time I'm worried about if I'm hurting them, even though like I got an okay cock or whatever, but still to me, it's in her asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always too worried if I'm hurting them. I'm not turned on by women in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just too worried if they're hurt, and I don't enjoy it because of that. I know they don't enjoy it because of that. The only time I can think of my entire life, this is true,
mm-hmm.
and it's so weird because her son is a police officer that I have to work with and interact with now.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, he was a pitcher in like high school baseball, but I was fucking this lady, and she's 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to my apartment. This is the last lady that I was significantly with before I got with Marissa. Because I met Marissa right when I turned 30, like less than a month after.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably a month before I turned 30. So she comes to my apartment and she goes, look, the guy that took my virginity when I was a kid, his name's Scott. I was married from 19 to 37, but I always, never got over that. And he's divorced now, and I'm going to, give him a chance, and I just don't want to hurt your feelings and blah, 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 blah. But I was hoping you'd want to fuck me one more time. And she brought me tacos. Like she made home cooked tacos, which were delicious, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so she fed me with some tacos. I ate the tacos later. You don't want to be fucking after you've eaten the tacos, and then you got gas. You're holding in a fart. You don't want that. So I ate the tacos later. But we were fucking. I'll never forget this. Like she was so wet. It was almost like a film. Like her entire asshole was soaked with her own, secretions.
Mm-hmm.
And my fucking dick just literally like went in by mistake. It wasn't planned. I didn't have to grab a goddamn goo of fucking lube, and like I'm just so turned off by lube, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it just was like her asshole grabbed my hand like a fucking warm, friendly hand and just pulled me in. And I'm telling you, when it went in, she started moaning,
mm-hmm.
and I finished in less than 2 minutes. And I was like breathing heavy. You know, it's like the kind of sex when you're done, like you have to lay there for like 3 minutes because you're so winded. That's how fucking great it was. But I've never had that experience. It's like I feel like a drug user that had like the one good high when the first time they smoke crack or something, and then they're always chasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only really positive ass sex story I've ever had, and it was unscripted, unplanned, and there was no lube involved. It just kind of fell in that motherfucker. But any other time, like all the other precautions that go with it, I'll just stick with the vagina, you know?
Good call.
Like I couldn't imagine, like, again, I'm not against gay people in any way, but I don't really enjoy, like I said, I don't really enjoy sodomizing women. There's no way I want to sodomize a man. There's 0%. Like I do not want to do that. So not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying
it's just
like,
not
I
your
don't
cup
really
of
want to
tea.
do it with women. So
Was the old Sam Kinison line? He would say, I can't believe, well, how can a man look at another man's dirty asshole and say, I love you?
Again, that's not for me to judge, and I defend their right to do so.
Just
I
joke.
absolutely 100% mean that.
Yeah.
But it's just not for me. I don't want to watch a Packers game at Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be around all those fucking people with goddamn cheese on their head and all that shit. I don't want to. That doesn't make me a bigot.
Absolutely not. It's just not for you.
Right. So I'm saying, like, I said that. I think I told you this before, and I need to wrap this up and get home. But when I was 19, I was working at Hot Topic.
Okay.
And if I've told you this before, I'm sorry if I'm boring anybody.
No.
My boss hated me. She thought I was a bigot, and this is why. So I was 19. I was going to a school called West Virginia State.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at Hot Topic, and this guy named Will I worked with asked me to go to a bar with him. And, you know, I'm 19. I don't know shit about anything. I'm a college freshman, and I've never been to a bar, you know. So I was like, can I get in? I mean, I'm not 21. He's like, yeah, we're all going. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And I was like, you know, I didn't know anybody. I'd been there, like, you know, I just started school like 2 weeks before out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah. But so one of the things I had to do at Hot Topic back in the day, there was a lot of cross-dressing going on. So I'm like, I'm so annoyed because I'm like, this dude's got a fucking size 14 foot and he's wanting me to know if this comes in his high heel or something. So I keep having to search because this guy's foot is too big for this woman's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going back and forth and trying to get bigger female gear for this guy. I don't want to sound bigoted toward him, but he was a man. He was a fucking man. I'm sorry. And eventually I hear he's talking to a friend, and they say they're talking about what they're going to be doing later that night at the Palace. And I was like, man, that's the club Will said that they were going to. So I asked Will, I said, hey, is the bar that you're going to, is it kind of like a guy bar? You know what I mean? Because I was so afraid to say it. You know? He's like, yeah, it's a gay bar. And he was like, I'm not gay. I was like, no, I don't care. He's like, no, but I'm not. I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't care if you are. He's like, but I was like, but I just don't want to go. And I swear, I said on my mom's grave, I said at the time, I was like, I don't want to go to Lambeau Field to watch the Packers either. It's just not my scene. Well, like the next week, Rachel was there, and Rachel was a lady that had a kid and now had written off men and only dated women because the baby daddy was a shitbag, I guess. Mm. And she hated men. So she called me back in the stock room area and just fucking cut this promo on me for 3 or 4 minutes about how, you know, there are people here with different sexualities than you, and basically called me a bigot because I didn't want to go to the gay bar. And that was 1999. And it's still in my head. I mean, it still bothers me that just because I don't want to go to the gay bar doesn't mean I have a problem with gay people. I don't like going to quote unquote heterosexual bars. I don't like bars.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that then. I had never gone to a fucking bar, but I don't like them. But I definitely don't want to go to a Klan rally. I don't want to go to a Packers game in Green Bay. I don't want to go to a place where I'm like, I went to a Miley Cyrus concert with my wife back in 2014. You talk about feeling uncomfortable. It was myself, my sister-in-law, my wife, and 20,000 ninth grade girls. It was horrible. And I felt like Chris Hansen's going to walk out right now and accuse me of fucking some underage girl in this arena. I just felt so out of fucking place. That's the same kind of thing. I'd like to think that you can say, I don't want to go to gay bars, but still not be anti-gay.
I think you can.
She didn't see it that way.
She
permanently splashed me with bigot dust.
Have you ever confronted her about that?
No, I don't know what she does now or whatever.
If you were to run into her, would you address it?
I don't know. She lives. I don't live in that town anymore. It's like where Randy Moss grew up. It's our capital, Charleston. It's like an hour and 15 minutes for me, so I would never see her. I don't know what she did. She was probably like, I don't know, 27 or 8 then.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hell, I'm 40 now, so she's probably damn near 50. Who knows what she did with her life? Who knows? Maybe she's dead. I don't know.
Oh,
but I would have, I mean, as bad as drugs are here, I mean, she could probably turn into an opioid freak, She could be on the asking me for $40 head before this is over. But yeah, I don't know what happened to her. But yeah, if for some reason I had some kind of conversation, I would tell her like how much this bothered me 22 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should. And we need to find this woman. At the very least, we could send her this clip of the audio.
She fucked me out of a concert too. I've told this story a bunch because I didn't see the band. Most people know him because he was married to Gwen Stefani.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 90s, he was really famous in an alternative band called Bush. His name's Gavin Rosdale, the singer. But sure. I had won tickets at a strip club. This shows you how. I've got this picture too. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Me in Miss Nude World 1999. And so my friends were all college freshmen. I went to high school. And there's one of the guys I talked about earlier had the Jamie that had the asthma attack, and Miss Delgren saw his penis in fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of these two guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, yeah, Miss Nude World's going to be at this strip club. We got to go. And I remember their radio spot was 343 Meow. When this cat's bad, she's real bad. The place was called Bad Kitties. And so we had never gone to, well, I can't speak for them. I had never gone to a strip club. So I go and it's early. They haven't even opened yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they had me help carry in their liquor that night. And the dude was like, hey, man, here's some free concert tickets for Bush and Garbage at Marshall University.
Wow.
Free tickets. Yeah. So, and they were like, the floor, the general admission. So I helped him carry the liquor. He's like, dude, please, here's 2 tickets. I was like, wow. And I got to see the stripper later, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. And Rachel hated me so badly. She said, if you go to that concert, I guess you'll have to be looking for another job because I'm not giving you that day off. And, I was like, for real? She would not give me the day off.
Wow.
It was only my second job ever, and I was determined. I was like, I would be a failure if I quit or lost the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I sold the tickets, and I didn't get to see the band Bush until 2018.
Oh, geez! By that time, Gavin Rossdale.
It was still great, and he gave me a man hug.
Really?
Yeah, it was long story short because I've told this so many times, but there's a song called Little Things, and in the song, they make it longer, like on the CD, it's like 4 minutes or whatever, but they make it like 8, 9, 10 minutes, and he goes through like the cheap seats up top and like just shakes hands and blah, blah, blah. But I was down in front of the stage, And I kept, you keep turning back, and I was like, fuck, my neck's starting to hurt. So I was like, I'm just going to turn around and watch the stage and wait till him to come back up here. And next thing I hear this roar from the crowd, and I look and he's standing right beside me, literally standing right beside me. And I don't know why, like I went to put out my hand, like to give him like shake his hand. I don't know. That was just what I did. But he pulled me in tight. Like he's in such good shape. Like his pecs feel like I said, they feel like rock hard. His fucking pecs touch mine. And then he patted me on the back like a big man pat, and then raised my hand over my head like I just won like the WWE title or something. And it was a really cool, and my fucking date was on her phone. I was like, Barbie, look, it's Gavin Rossdale. And she's like, oh my God, she didn't even fucking see it happening as it was happening. I've got several pictures of like the back of his head and him standing beside me and stuff, but not while we were together. She was on her phone, not even paying attention. And he was standing right there hugging me.
That's hilarious.
But I do have the picture with Miss Nude World that night still to this day. And do you remember the talk show Jenny Jones?
Sure I do.
We saw her on Jenny Jones in the dorm room that same semester. Like, holy shit, that's Jade St. Clair. Yeah, so we saw her on Jenny Jones. And like I said, I still have my picture. I'm going to see if I have it on my phone right now. So it would be perfect if I can find it so you could just put it up on the screen while we're live.
Yeah.
I need to leave in just a second, but I'm hoping that I can find this. If I don't have it on my phone, I know where it is. It's in my Jeep, actually. It's in I have a big case of like 600 CDs in my Jeep, and it's in there somewhere.
Well,
like in front of one of the CDs.
It'll be a good tease for next week's show.
Well, just give me, I'm scrolling now. Just give me a minute here. I'm searching. I think I've taken a picture of this before.
Okay.
And if it's on my phone, it'll be worth it, because the look I have on my face, the joke was that the guy, Jamie, who, again, the asthma attack Jamie, I said, I'm going to make a face like I'm coming, which I really I don't think I make this face and I'm coming, but I have like my tongue sticking out and like my eyes are real big. I'm squeezing her tits. Oh, here it is. I found it.
Okay.
Oh, look at this shirt. I look like I could be Burt Reynolds' friend in Boogie Nights. I look like I'm wearing some shit from the fucking 70s here. And this is from 99.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness.
You should share that, man.
Oh, Lord. Lordy.
That is Jade St. Clair. I wonder what she looks like now. Miss Nude World 1999. And again, I'm wearing the shirt from Boogie Nights. What the fuck am I wearing? I know I'm wearing white khakis, which kind of suck too, but what's that shirt? This Burt Reynolds flannel, man.
Jeez.
I'm telling you, I'm Burt Reynolds' friend on Boogie Nights there, but that's a good friend to have,
Absolutely.
Well, did you share the photo?
It's loading right now. It takes us a little second. Right. Here it comes.
I want to see what anybody's reaction is, and then I gotta go. I'm hoping they'll enjoy this.
Wow, she has Miss Nude World is quite the good looking lady.
Oh, she was so awesome. I had to pay for Jamie's picture. And otherwise I would have a photo of her vagina in the because you had to pay like $25 for her to be butt ass naked in the photo. But because I had to buy his, I didn't have enough money. So he didn't have the money, the cash or what, I don't know. It was like $15 if she had her panties on, but I had to buy two. So it was like $30 for me as I paid for his. So that's why I didn't have the picture with her vagina. You can kind of see the start of her landing strip a little bit if you zoom in on it.
I'm not good at
the top part.
I'm not good at zooming in.
Well, the top part of her, the V right there, she had a landing strip just above her clit.
Oh my gosh. All right, enough of that. We're going to get kicked off of the YouTube Periscope world.
Well, she's not naked.
That is true.
She's got bottoms on, and I'm covering her breast, I think.
That is true. We'll show.
Did anybody see it?
Yeah, everybody's seen it, and everybody's jerking off right now.
Well, I hope that someone enjoyed that story. And I'm glad it all tied well with Jamie, the asthma.
It did. All right, Dan. This has been tons of fun. We'll be back here next week doing the same thing with different stories and different laughs.
I told you I got to miss that one day in May, unfortunately.
Yeah, and actually, I got to send you an updated schedule because there's we got some draft stuff coming up that might interrupt us. But I'll get that organized tomorrow, and then we'll let people know what our schedule is. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and let people know that on Wednesday we've got a full day of programming. It starts in the morning at 9:30 with Mike North. Mike has got the outstanding storyteller, and he's got some sports bets to help you win some money. By the way, he texted me the other day. Mike North does, and because he knows that I just started gambling, and I don't gamble much. I throw $20 here, $20 there, and so he says I got one that's a sure thing. Lo and behold, it was a sure thing. I won some money. So Mike is the best at it. And following that, at 2 p.m. Central, we got a really special Bar Down Blackhawk hockey talk. The guys, besides talking about the Chicago Blackhawks, they're going to be talking about Sidney Crosby, the star hockey player for the Pittsburgh Penguins, controversial figure, and they're going to have a very special guest. Jordan, and I'm not going to pronounce her last name because I'm sure I'd mess it up, but Jordan is a huge Penguins fan, and she talks hockey on her podcast, so she's going to be their guest. And then on, do we have something Wednesday night? We probably do, but anyway, I'm so tired right now. All I can remember is that it's the Mike North Advantage. C-Red Radio, Chicago Bulls Talk with the Ellis brothers, Tyler, Jordan, and Joshua. Great show. Those guys are funny and passionate Chicago
and
Bulls
the
fans.
Gaines Report is the most positive human being alive. I wish I had his disposition. No sarcasm.
Oh my gosh. I encourage everyone to take a look at the Barfly Tailgate show from this past Sunday. Ryan Badgley awarded Tyler Ellis, Gaines Report, a badge of honor award because of the work that he has done in Africa, taking over what his father started, helping to build schools and get people educated down there. It's in Mombasa, and Tyler went, and he shows up over there. He shared all these great stories. He shows up over there, and people immediately embraced him because they knew his father and so forth. It's a very, very touching story. He shared that in the Barfly Tailgate show.
I legitimately think if he talked to addicts, he could get them off of smack.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Like, he is a motivational, like, that should be his calling.
Well,
or definitely, I don't know what he is religiously, but he would definitely be a good minister.
Yes.
You know?
Well, and one of the things he and I have been talking about is him doing a show like that will encourage people to work out, eat better, do more fellowship things in their community and so forth. And so we're planning something, and hopefully this summer we'll launch that show, because you're absolutely right. Your instinct on that is totally right. So we got lots of great stuff happening here at the Barroom Network. And then our draft coverage, which perhaps you saw the Greg Gabriel talking football show today. We've got another episode with him on Thursday, I want to say. And in that episode, he's going to share his scouting reports on those top quarterbacks, top offensive linemen, and top cornerbacks. So 3 possessions of needs. He's watching some tape and accumulating some information from other scouts and GMs, and he's going to share that here exclusively on the Barroom Network. That's Thursday, and we're going to try to do that one live, because I know a lot of people were disappointed that they weren't able to ask Greg questions during today's presentation, because we pre-recorded it and put it on. So we'll do that one live for everyone to interact with Greg. Got tons of great stuff. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to say goodbye. Dan, you say goodbye too.
Last thing I got for you, I mentioned this to you in text, but We could potentially get Ricardo McDonald.
Yeah.
The last man that wore number 54 before Brian Urlacher.
Mm-hmm.
98, 99 Bears. His son interacts with me on Twitter. I said, I'd love to get you and or your dad. And he said, well, I think we could work that out.
That'd be awesome. And by the way, I got to pick your brain on Cameron Worrell. Cameron Worrell is going to be a special guest. And unfortunately, he's only available during the daytime when Dan is unavailable. So I'm going to do a one-on-one interview with Worrell. And I want to pick your brain on some cool questions to ask him, since your recall is so much better from that era than mine. So we'll talk offline about that.
All right. Very well. All right. Everybody, thank you for listening. And I'm going to go home then. Have a good night, Aldo.
Likewise.
Be well.